Hello, everybody. Hi. Sorry about the lack of music. We'll fix that for the next one. How's everybody doing?
Hi.
Hello, hello. Can you see us? Can you hear us? Is everything all good?
Expecting them to respond though.
Hi. All right. Audio all good. Mic test 1 2. Okay.
When HLT.
Yeah, we already got the first question from chat. All right. Yeah, this is a AHOP stream. No. Okay. Welcome everybody to the first Momentum Mod developer Q&A stream. I'm really excited to do things like this. We've been trying to plan to do more for the community like this and reach out and get your guys' opinions and questions answered. We get a lot of them in the Discord, but Discord is only one of our social platforms, right? So while we are going to be answering a lot of questions from our Discord, by the way, link in the bio if you want to join and ask us any questions about the game. Yeah, they'll be answered. We're planning on doing these kind of monthly-ish. So, if you have questions, definitely ask them in the Q&A live channel in our Discord. Thank you, Hex, for linking it. And yeah, so I guess we'll start by introducing ourselves. My name is Nick, aka Goknak. I'm the project lead of Momentum Mod. And you're probably going to hear a lot of my voice today. So I'll try not to make it too monotonous and boring, but yeah. So yeah, I guess let's go through everybody else. Introduce yourselves to the stream.
Yeah, I'm BLT. I'm gonna be the Linux dev of Momentum Mod in the future, hopefully soon.
I'm Blue Raven. I'm a mapper, I guess. I don't know.
Hi, I'm Bray. From the TF2 competitive or jump scene, you probably know me as Hellbent a little bit more. I'm an engine / game programmer, meaning that I work on game code for Momentum and also engine code for Chaos as part of the Chaos initiative. And I sometimes make jump maps. I don't know, my free time.
The next one on the list is false, but they're just away from the mic. They make maps and 3D models like the sticky launcher model.
Yeah.
False fell asleep. Rip.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Tom. aka Fingerprints. I do mostly art and story stuff. So yeah, and a bit of media. I did the 088 video,
Which was really awesome, by the way. Yeah.
It's amazing.
It sucked. Yeah,
I'm Hex. I am too active in Discord and I do some mapping on the side.
My name's Hona. I'm just a developer, so I do most of the back-end site work, and I made the Discord bot.
Ninja. I do the campaign mapping and general mapping. I've made the timescale AHOP map.
All right. Hello, I'm Alex, aka Trazox. I'm the head of media for Momentum Mod, and recently I've been working on the new background you guys have probably seen on Steam and in our banners and everywhere. I've been working on that recently. Oh yeah, Fingerprints has it. And I've also been doing a lot of UI work, which you've probably seen in the blog post and the team showcase.
Working with
also
Isabella.
the inventor of bhop old school.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
The recently worldwide acclaimed CSGO map bhop old school.
It's like
Front page of the
30,000 downloads on the workshop, I think, something like that.
That's awesome. Yeah. Then we also got XB Man.
Yeah, I was waiting for Vortex. They might be away.
Yeah.
I'm primarily a surf mapper. You may know me from TF2 surf servers, but I also do some moderation and some web development as well.
I think last but not least is me on the list. My name is Zofa. I'm the production designer. I coordinate with the artists as well as the software engineers.
Hell yeah. So that's everybody. We have more people on the team. Some people couldn't make it because of the timing of the stream. We tried to find the best timing for everybody, but and same thing goes for you. If you can't watch these or you have to dip, that's okay. We're going to be uploading these with timestamps to the questions to our YouTube channel, which is also linked down below. So yeah, awesome. Let's get started, I guess, with the first question here. We're going to be, they're not in chronological order, by the way. We kind of reshifted all of the questions to be a little bit more in a flow, right? So, yeah, let's go ahead and start with this first one.
So our first question we have is from Oshu asking, for someone who doesn't know what this is, what is this game about? What is Momentum Mod about?
All right. Thank you, Oshu, for I hope that I pronounced that correctly. Thank you for this question. So Momentum Mod is aiming to be a standalone game that centralizes a lot of the movement platforming game modes. So Surf, Bunny Hop, KZ are kind of the big three that people are really familiar with, but also Jump from Team Fortress 2. And we're also starting to delve into other game modes as well, like Conk from Team Fortress Classic, Defrag from Quake, the grandfather mode, right? And even things like Trikz, which are kind of like spin-off modes. And I believe the last one is Parkour, which is going to be Titanfall 2 movement in the game. And that's like parkour, like running on walls and stuff and slide hopping. So Momentum is aiming to be just a centralized hub. Like it's effectively like a love letter of source engine based movement. I guess defrag is a little like a little out there, but for the most part, we are focusing on just fun source-ish movement that I guess I should specify speedrunning, right? We're focusing on the speedrun game modes and a centralized timer. Right, so it's all in one spot, and not only that, but we can, because we're a standalone game, we can start to lean more into teaching people how to do these modes, how to do these different modes and their mechanics. We can make a campaign and easily guide people into like the basics of the mode, and then bring them over to the community main maps where the competition and all of that is. So Momentum Mod is aiming to be just a dedicated platform for it, as opposed to maybe a community server on some other game. We're aiming to be our own kind of like platform that you can just consistently go to and just consistently have a lot of fun with these modes. We're completely free to play. We have to be. We'll get into the talk about like pricing and stuff later, but it's kind of more of a decision on our part as well. We want to be a free-to-play game. Not only is CSGO also free, TF2 is also free, but there shouldn't really be a barrier to entry to play these modes, at least in my opinion. So it's kind of more of a decision on our part to be free. But yeah, we'll talk more about like money and stuff in the future. There's, I believe, a couple of more questions about it. But yeah, it's aiming to just be this giant love letter to if you've heard of or love source engine movement modes such as Bunny Hop, and you can very easily find a new home here in Momentum Mod. So yeah, thank you Oshu for that question. Does anybody have any input there? Did I miss anything?
I think you missed your favorite game mode, A-Hop.
Oh, yeah, that's right. My bad. So, yeah, one more movement mode, A-Hop from Half-Life 2, which is embarrassing because that's my background. That's where I've come from. I used to, so like I guess a little bit of background for me. I used to do Half-Life 2 speedruns back in the day. I came back a little bit like kind of recently, like 2020. I did a little bit of runs, hit a new goal, and then moved on because this game is taking basically all of my free time that I would spend on running. And I mean, I love working on this game anyway, but yeah, so A-Hop is also there. Sorry, A-Hoppers, I left it out, but A-Hop is very fun. I'm really looking forward to people to people playing it and learning. Like, honestly, the most exciting thing for me for this game is just seeing people come in from modes that they know, like bunny hop, surf, KZ, and learning about conk, a hop, trick surf, stuff like this that existed but maybe was more niche, or had different communities altogether in different games, and just being able to centralize it. We've already had bunny hoppers basically destroy a-hop world records and stuff. Like, it's awesome seeing kind of the mix of like how people are going to like get to know Momentum in its modes and like get better at the game, right? So man, it's awesome. So hopefully that answers that question. All right, I guess we can move on to the next one.
I think you answered a little bit of the next question. Imbellis is asking, what is Momentum Mod and why should they switch from Team Fortress to Counter-Strike Source or Global Offensive?
Right, so we probably get this a lot. A lot of people might have contention about how we're going to combat, or like how we're placing ourselves in response to like other community servers or other games, right? CSGO is free to play. Why should I play your game? Like stuff like that. So the main reason that you would want to play Momentum Mod, I hope I answered the first part. What is Momentum, right? So we're a standalone game. I hope the reason why people would want to either switch or at least try us out is because these modes, TF2, CSS, CSGO, the modes found in these games are they rely on community servers to play. So you have to connect to a game server in order to play the mode, and that comes with limitations like you can only play on one map at one time until people rock the vote or something to change the map. You have ping, which is really, really big. Network latency in games like TF2, especially for rocket jumping, where you have to synchronize projectiles hitting a specific spot. That's not fun, especially if you have over a certain ping, it's unplayable, right? You can't even do it. So Momentum's aiming, the way that we're structuring Momentum's gameplay is that you don't have to connect to a multiplayer server at all. There's no, like, if you don't want to play with other people, you don't even have to. The way that our I guess we'll get into multiplayer talk, but the way that our game is structured is you can play whatever map you want, whenever you want, for however long you want. We'll have like limits on like run length, like you can't do a run for like over 12 hours or something. Like we'll have a hard limit on like run length, but other than that, you can play the map as long as you want. There's nobody that'll come in and RTV if you're in the middle of a run. There's some classic clips that that have that, but the idea is that multiplayer should be optional, right? If you want to play with anybody, you can still. There's right now we currently have Steam lobbies, which is kind of at will kind of hosted multiplayer where you invite people that you want into it, or you can set it public and people can browse them and join. But what we're also going to do in the future is have dedicated server. We'll talk about that. That's also another question down the line, as well as instance multiplayer where when you join a map and you're not in a lobby or a server or whatever already, it will look for like a public temporary, we'll call them roaming lobbies, where you can join a map and effectively have the same multiplayer experience you find on like servers, because anybody that isn't in the server or their own lobby would join this, or it would automatically host one, and it allows like multiplayer to be kind of instanced per map, to give that kind of community feel that existed beforehand. So I hope that people, like, the other thing too about this is we're not going to win everybody over. In fact, we can't. There's going to be people that are going to be very opinionated and very attached to their times that they already have on their own platform, the community that they might already be in, right? And some people are maybe waiting to see what the community's reaction is. But I hope that because the game is free to play and that we're mounting the games and we're going to have the maps that you know and love, that people at least give us a fair shot, right? That people download the mod and try it. So I sincerely hope that, we get at least people to try it out. So we know that we can't draw everybody. There's going to be people like people that like play CSGO and maybe have like like I have like 10 minutes to surf between maybe some competitive matches or matchmaking or something. Those people might not enjoy Momentum Mod because it doesn't suit their need of like, okay, well, it's more of a dedicated game, if that makes sense. So like you'd have to like quit out and, go and play. So yeah, so we're not going to be able to draw everybody. But with that being said, we are listening to the existing communities and seeing what works and what doesn't. And that is shaping our game development. So, if you like things from servers, if you don't like things from servers, let us know, right? Our game is basically forged by the community. And so we hope you at least give us a shot. Yeah. All right. Was there any other input on this question that you guys had?
I think one of the draws that we've already been seeing with the game, like one thing that's keeping people playing right now is the mapping, where it's much easier to iterate and test within lobbies rather than for most of the game modes, it requires plugins and stuff like that. You don't want to have them running single player, or you have to upload your maps to a server to have them tested. But at least within surfing and jumping, you see a lot of people using Momentum Mods specifically for testing their maps, just because it's way easier to iterate.
Absolutely, yeah. And I guess I could mention that too, because we're a standalone game, we can make mapping woes. Like we can, now that we have engine license, right, we can have a hammer that works for mappers, right, that doesn't crash, that has workflows that are more optimized for surf and game, game mode development. We can have entities that simplify a lot of the workflows of like filtering or like specific, like, I don't know, behaviors that mappers would want. There's a lot of benefit to mapping in particular that we're really excited about, that our platform can really capitalize on.
Yeah, and I guess to kind of further drive that home, with the zero ping thing for jump modes, so TF2 does also have like a 0.2 second delay between just rendering like sticky bombs and rockets. So really momentum kind of feels like almost like negative ping, it feels better than TF2 offline. So
yeah,
that's a huge draw for me.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Imbellis, for the starter question. We appreciate it. And let's move on to the next one.
So Korki, our next question, Korki S is asking when in reference to, I believe, the development roadmap, like when's the next release, when's beta release, when's the campaign release?
Gotcha. Yeah, this is also probably one of our most commonly asked questions. Yeah, we should have honestly added like a trademark or something. So thank you, Korki, for the question. It's hard, right? It's hard to have deadlines, to be able to meet deadlines, especially when you have a team that is just volunteers, right? We are people working in our free time on the game, out of passion, out of, just for the love of the game and the modes. We don't have a company structure or anything crazy like that. It is just a passion-based project. There's no way to give a solid answer to a when question because we can't set a deadline and we can't, we don't have anything that makes us meet it, right? Like traditional companies have like shareholders and, like the value of the company and whatever, right? But for us, because we're just passion-based, we can give estimates. So that's what I kind of did in the 088. It's been 5 days. So the thing about the updates, right, is I try to give at least a good estimate of like, what we're trying to approach, right? So for the last blog post, the 088 release, I gave, we did delay back to late 2021. The port to the new engine took a little bit longer than expected. Can't do too much about that, but now that we're on it and now that we're comfortable about it, it is just like basically full steam ahead. We'll be fixing some bugs. There's a little bit of movement jank that we're going to also be fixing, but other than that, it is like we're laser focused on what we need. We'll talk more about the laser focus in a future question as well. But the main thing is like 090, we're expecting to be 090 about in a month or like month or two. So 090 comes with mapper place portals. It's basically taking advantage, right, of the new source engine stuff that we have. So mapper place portals, things like portal to gel, if mappers want that, we could add that. There's fixing the game movement, making it more consistent, but also adding in the conch game movement, so that people can have proper conch based movement. And then I believe we will also be having a lot more DirectX 11 fixes, and then the first instance of our panorama main menu stuff, which I'm really excited about, having a proper UI framework, right? So that's 090. I won't really go through all of the roadmap. If you guys want to see it, it's on our GitHub page, and then the recent blog post goes well more into depth. But ideally, each update is going to take around a month or two of dedicated time towards it. Things pop up, right? That's the other thing. It's real life happens, stuff happens. Corona, we didn't expect that, and that's so stuff like that happens that can lead to more productivity or less productivity. There's nothing that again, we're not trying to whip everybody on the team to do so much every week or something. But yeah, for the most part, we're gonna try to be very open and honest about how progress is going, because that's important. You guys deserve to know if we're falling behind. We shouldn't hide that from you. So at the very least, you'll know if we're speeding up, falling behind. But yeah, we're really excited to get to 1.0. So 1.0 is estimated to be at the end of the year. That's going to be the public release. Everybody can download it, play it. That's kind of like our first kind of main release. Then we're going to be working on adding the remaining modes. So we'll get into that in another question. But the main thing is that we're going to be kind of adding more and more community related features, which we'll also talk about. Lots of good questions in this session. And then at the end, kind of like the tail end of the game, I guess, main development is 2.0, which is our fully fledged custom campaign with tutorials and a story, and it's gonna be so much fun. I could geek out about the campaign for like hours, so I won't get too much into it, but we have a lot of really good stuff planned. New Jules is raiding. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that raid. Welcome everybody. All right, does anybody else have any input on that, or should we move to the next question? All right, thank you, Korki, for the question. Let's move on.
The next question, Hyperdan is asking, will players have proper models instead of shapes, or will the shapes option stay around in some capacity?
Really good question. Thank you, Hyperdan. This kind of ties in with our cosmetic system. I believe the next question also gets into it. So yes, so the idea is we will have a proper player model. It's not just going to be shapes. as much fun as just making just shapes be the player model. That being said, shapes will stay. We'll still have shapes as like a potential customization option. But once we work more on the story and flesh out, who you play as in the story, in the campaign, we will start to add a proper player model. This will definitely be in place before 1.0 because there's a lot of cosmetic related stuff related to player models and stuff like that in the future that we want to be able to unlock, like have people unlock while we work on the campaign. So yeah, and the shape options will stay. They'll most likely either be one of the first cosmetics that you can get, or maybe just be default unlocked. Maybe just when you go to the store, it's a free cosmetic, you just get it or something. So yeah, it'll definitely be there. I believe the next question delves into the cosmetic system. So was there any other input before we move on to that one? All right, so we'll move on to the next question, which is really related here.
And really related is in Yohaun's asking about what type of cosmetics are going to be available, like weapon skins, player models, sound packs, loading screens, possibly leaderboard badges, and how will these cosmetics be unlocked, like through points store, achievements, or experience levels?
Right on. Thank you, Yohaun, for this question as well. So, all right, cosmetic system. So the way that our cosmetics are going to work, first of all, we can't make money from the game. I'll get into that in a future question. So none of the cosmetic stuff I'm talking about is things that you can buy, like with actual money. We can't do that. Valve doesn't let us. But the cosmetic system, so the way that the game is going to be structured, we have kind of two main like systems, right? So the first one is going to be the cosmetic or XP based system. This is basically just playing the game. This is beating maps, beating your PR, right? Beating your PBs, winning races, participating in races, doing challenges, doing dailies. We'll get into that in the future question as well. But like basically just playing the game, doing things in the game. You get cosmetic XP, which goes towards a level, but this XP and level also translates into a currency, which right now I believe we're calling units. But yeah, so you get units for also, just playing the game. And that unit currency actually goes to a cosmetic store. So the way that we're doing cosmetics is basically like a store, because first of all, I hate loot boxes. I absolutely hate random chance cosmetics. I think that's just a good way to make money if you're greedy, but like other than that, I hate loot boxes. We will never have loot boxes in the game, except for maybe a joke update. So I guess spoilers for a future April Fools. But we will never ever have random, like you won't like randomly get a skin for beating a map or something like that. You will work towards your cosmetics that you want. And that's the other thing. If you want something, you save up for it. So you'll know the price of, what something costs in units, and you work towards it. And I think that offers like the greatest flexibility in terms of cosmetics. So we just have to price things appropriately. But other than that, it's the idea is that, so I guess getting into what kind of cosmetics, right? Our cosmetics, so I guess talking about the cosmetic experience, right? We will never ever prevent you from locally modifying your game. You can add whatever cosmetics you want locally. You can have custom knives, whatever. Like you can do it locally. The problem is that doesn't show up for other people. So our cosmetic system is focusing on what is the most impactful cosmetics that other people can see. Right? What gives you the customization, right, of being able to, express yourself or maybe represent yourself, but also have, something that shows up, something that's impactful. So I guess in this list, right, weapon skins, yeah, sure. Weapon, maybe not exactly skins. Cat cam, let's go. Nice. So weapon skins, maybe not particularly weapon skins. I also don't like weapon skins. I think they're a lazy cosmetic. I think for the most part, weapon skins, like the way that we're going to do kind of like weapon or themed kind of weapons or models is packs. So you would buy like, for example, a hedgehog pack, which has like a hedgehog sticky bomb, hedgehog rocket, or hedgehog riding a rocket or something like that. But you would work towards a pack that gives you more meaningful cosmetics, right? Sound packs, we can look into like how sounds are going to work. Maybe when you get a PB or world record or something in a lobby, we could have that play also in your replay, right? So whenever you accomplish, right, a run like that, we could have sound packs, maybe like announcer stuff. Have like maybe outside voice artists lend their voice or get their voices for that. Loading screens, that's really local. I think that would also be really sad if we did loading screens as a cosmetic. So maybe not loading screens. We will have different loading screens for like when you beat the campaign or like different parts of the campaign maybe. So we'll have different like backgrounds and stuff like that. But that won't be like cosmetic store stuff. But then leaderboard badges, things that can show up on your profile. Things that, calling cards, badges from things that you've accomplished, which related to challenges, right? So the idea there is, our cosmetics are going to be basically, ghost cam now. Oh man. But yeah, the idea is that our cosmetics need to be impactful. They need to have some sort of social impact to be worth it. Because otherwise it's just a local file that like people will be like, why can't I just edit my files and have this, right? So we have to we have to be able to kind of scope it more towards like the social impact. My voice is already raspy. I'm already voice cracking. One moment, let me drink some water. But yeah.
Welcome Buongiorno, by the way.
Oh yeah.
A little out of focus.
Welcome, Bunch.
He's also being chroma keyed out.
Oh yeah, the darkness. Oh yeah, Ghost just joined our no. Yeah, the way, so just a little tidbit about that. Discord doesn't have a good way for us to capture webcams. I have to pop out the thing and like chroma key it. So yeah, if people have like darker or not well lit like environments, they turn into ghosts. So sorry about that if it's distracting. If anybody knows of any like better way to capture a bunch of webcams from Discord, other than this kind of awful method, right? Let us know. But yeah. Okay, so thank you, Yohaun and Hyperdan, for the cosmetic related questions. I believe we might have one more, but if not, thank you both.
Fortunately, the next question isn't about that. It's asking Art is actually asking who on the team eats the most pizza.
Oh man. I barely do.
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
Pizza this morning.
Okay.
Just had pizza right before now.
I would consider myself a
For
contender,
breakfast,
but
it's
I'm
setting
not.
the bar pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, you know.
I can't eat pizza. I'm on the
Lactose.
Jordan Peterson all beef diet, so only was it beef, salt, and water.
Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah.
Sounds good.
How's your bowels? That's gotta be awful. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's a struggle, you know. But...
Oh yeah. Spy Complex is pointing out that I made a pizza making tutorial in like 2016 for a school project.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a bit of an infamous meme on research for a while. Oh, now, yeah.
We got the Kiwis. Yeah, so I barely eat pizza. I know it's a shame, right? But I just haven't. I haven't been really getting a lot of pizza. We mostly make homemade pizzas, and that's pretty rare. So I'm probably pretty low on the list. But pizza is good, especially Detroit style. If anybody is from Michigan or has had it, Detroit style is pretty good. But yeah. All right. Moving on to the next question here.
I think we actually have the person who asked this question, and I'll let them take the honor to ask their own question.
Sure. So yeah, I figured a good question that pops up in the Discord every now and then is, what is the process for new developers to join the team? Both in regards to our normal stuff like the website, Discord bot, docs, or if they want to do the game code, which is now under NDA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a great question. So yeah, we still, while the game is closed source now, which is, you know, a big hurdle for people to be able to contribute to. The rest of the, so first talking about the rest of our open source repositories, right? So we still have a fully open source website. We have fully open source documentation and a fully open source Discord bot. I believe the forums, the Docker image for the forums is also open source. We forked it. So we have open source repositories that people can contribute to if they would like to work on things related to our game. The game repository is a little bit iffy. So while we had to close source due to our license agreement, you know, it doesn't mean that the game repo is like bad to work on. Like there are things, for example, Lumia's defrag fork right now that's adding the defrag game mode and movement that we would be able to pull in. Like it is still valid to use the game repository to work on kind of like, I guess, non-UI related stuff, right? Like things that like engine kind of solves for us, like panorama, right? Like any VGUI or UI related stuff, maybe not. And then there are probably some differences, like it'll be outdated code. We can't update the repository with our latest code. So for the most part, it's going to be harder, right? So there's only specific things that people could work on. So the process really is now going to be more of a like stricter vetting process. We're going to be more looking towards people that have had licensed source development experience, which greatly restricts that scope because that is very hard to come across. So yeah, for the most part, joining the team, like joining the Momentum team, that's just being motivated about the game, being very active in the Discord, answering bugs, reporting bugs, answering questions, things like team-like behavior like that. Being motivated enough about the game to where it's, a passion of yours, because that's what the team is. It's passion-based. We want people passionate about the game. So that's kind of like the only requirement for like being on the team is really just making our catching up with the team. So we have Saturday meetings. People have already probably seen that in our Discord. We have Saturday meetings where we just go over what we've done and what we're going to do, just kind of keeping us on the same page, same track and everything. But for the most part, there's no like strict requirements of being on the team other than that. We just need to be updated, and then, have that passion working on the game. Hopefully, right? It doesn't always have to be the case. Again, real life happens. People have school. I had school. That was the main reason why the game wasn't being worked on for like a large chunk of 2017 to 2019, right? I had university and, graduating high school, university to do. So a lot of that was, taken care of there. But yeah, it's understandable if people, have stuff come up. And yeah, it's more freeform, right? There's no hard deadlines that we have to meet. There's, but at the same time, you also don't get paid to do anything, I guess, on the team. So it can be hard to find motivation, especially, if you're financially, and struggling or something and need to like maybe focus more on school or job or something, or a job or something. So yeah, I guess one aspect of this, right, is the people that have contributed. I guess we'll talk more about like the open source aspect. I believe there's a question about that. But one of the people that we've actually brought on from our open source to become NDA'd, we're waiting on Valve right now, is BLT. So yeah, BLT, if you want to talk about like, I guess like what you've done, like, and I guess what you've been doing, to kind of give like a
like I found out about the game, I think in about June or July last year. I saw it on some random stream and I was really interested in it. I really didn't do any open source development or contribution stuff beforehand, but when I saw that it had an open source repository, I when I started contributing code, I already had a key, so that wasn't really the motivation.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just there was stuff that that annoyed me. Like, for example, like one of the first things was that on some maps that had soundscapes, the game would just crash because of like 1 million errors in the console a second or something. And I just tried random stuff, and at some point it turned out you just had to move around some two lines of code or 4, and randomly just didn't crash anymore, which I still to this day don't understand what that was. But
Source.
it was just stuff like that, and I tried to take on bigger stuff like. The thing that still probably annoys more people, that it's actually useful, like when you teleport, it traces to the ground. So if you restart the map, it puts you on the ground, but because there's all different kinds of mapping stuff, doesn't work most of the time. But
yeah, new zone stuff will fix that, don't worry.
Just what I'm getting at is that the final thing, not really the final thing, but like the second to last thing I did was like having replays load asynchronously. So if you have like 500 replays on a single map, the game would lag very badly if you press tab and put up the leaderboards. So I think I got I don't know how many, there were like 200 replays from Brave for like SJ. I don't know which map it was, but
I like that map a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was at the beginning it was like 10 changes, but it was not thread safe. It was I just thought like I I write the function like start asynchronously and then do the callback, but that was really bad idea. And like after 89, like the GitHub thread had like 89 posts at the end, and I added mutexes, and it turned into a really big system and stuff.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is like you really need to be in for it to really work on the stuff that's brought up in code review, and also don't do stuff that nobody really asked for. Like it's always a good idea to talk about it beforehand before you even start doing anything. Like one pull request was like removing the crosshair. That was a really bad idea what I did. And but if it's not something that that's needed, you just have to sometimes accept that not everything you're gonna do is gonna be there at the end. Like there's gonna be 10,000 iterations of it, and but try to do what you can and what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you touched on a really good point there where the motivation, right? Like that's the main thing that we're looking for team members, right? Is the motivation to actually work on the game. We'll talk more about it in the open source question, but there's a lot of people that might have only done 1 or 2 things for the game and then disappeared, which is, nice, but it would have been, it's nicer to have people that see the platform for what it is and continuously work on it. And that's what we're looking for in team members, in coders that will come to the NDA side if they want to do game dev stuff, but also just, website related stuff as well. So we'll move on to the next question. Thank you, BLT, for that. And thank you, Hona, for asking about it.
Our next question, we got Molly asking, with the game switching to closed source, did the development actually slow down, since there's obviously less people with the engine access now?
Yeah, I could probably talk a little bit about that. In my opinion, it has sped up. It's kind of weird, but it really lit a fire under pretty much everyone on the team. And I mean, you may be asking, how does Goknak work more on the game than he did? But I'll tell you, when we did get engine access, this guy was up till like 7 a.m. every single day. Just, I don't even know when he slept, like 3 hours sleep or something. I don't know.
Sleep is for the weak.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Zen and SL doing amazing stuff, getting the engine up, and now Slidey DX11 Panorama. It's amazing. And yeah, so I mean, it is a huge opportunity to be, recognized by Valve enough to actually get an engine license. So
absolutely,
that's where that fire comes from. I know, for at least from myself, like getting that engine access was kind of like the push for me to be like, maybe take this a little bit more seriously. And yeah, I would just try to transition from my current job I'm not very happy with into the games industry, and hopefully this helps me do that. And I mean, yeah, we did lose people, but we also, we have the Chaos Initiative with P2C. So the stuff that P2C works on that's engine related, we also get. So we do get a lot of like Linux fixes, like even like JJ, I think was in the chat here, did so much work getting just momentum, not even like engine related stuff, but momentum specifically up and running with Linux. Yeah, it was amazing. And then Citadel helping set us all up with that. It was amazing work. It's awesome to be working with people. And I mean, we did lose a lot of people. Obviously, if we had it our way, we'd be open source.
Yep.
But can't. I think, did we answer that, or later we'll answer. Yeah. So the main thing was, I mean, the most passionate and active devs were picked up already. So, really, the process of like getting, SL, Zen, me, Slidey, was just that we're all the most active people at the time. So yeah.
Consistently active, yeah.
Yeah, consistently active. Yeah, and yeah, there was definitely a lot of one-off contributors, but there's also some people that were starting to do a lot, but just kind of did it in a bad time where we just kind of got engine access, and then we were kind of I don't know, they were kind of like forced to not be able to work on the game, which is sad.
Yeah. Yeah, I can step in here too and just you nailed basically all of that. Like, yeah, that was basically what I was gonna say. Like the velocity in terms of like the game, right, with cards being closed and stuff. It is, you know, unfortunate that the potential for more development contribution is now closed, right? Not entirely. There's like a wedge, right? There's like a little light from the door. The door is not entirely closed, but it is significantly more closed than it used to be. But the main thing is that you know, we never like had like I guess like when it came to velocity, right, in terms of cards that we needed done for major features and stuff, instead of punting like small and trivial cards now, we now schedule it and tackle them basically upright or up front rather. And we are laser focused, right? Like we're not, it's no longer kind of just general like development of like, okay, we're going to be working towards this thing. It's like after engine license, I basically switched over to, okay, we need to know exactly what each release should have. And that kind of planning, I think, also combined with our now lit fire and laser focus on just all the things we need to do is really going to actually propel us. Because we know exactly what we need to do. And while, you know, I love code reviewing, I think that, you know, people learning through code review is the best. It did take time. It took time away from development. So we don't have that problem anymore. It's more just like reviewing each other's code on the team. But yeah, so hopefully that kind of answers it. Again, it was never a burden to be open source. If we had it our way, we would be. But yeah, it's definitely unfortunate that we can't be open, but you know, it's the trade, right? It's the trade, the big trade that we made. TikTok memes aside, it is the big trade that we made of we got Hammer full engine access. We can make the game as good, you know, portals. We can make it as good as we want it to be, at the cost of now we have a very limited dev team. Which, you know, yeah, if people on the dev team start to become too busy or demotivated or something, it can significantly impact the development. So I'm hoping that doesn't become the case. I think we'll be all right. I think that the team that we have is really, really awesome. And especially with adding BLT, we're going to now have dedicated Linux development. All of the Linux bugs will be fixed. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, like we have Linux developers, JJ, Mlug. I believe SL has a VM, and then I should probably also look into getting a VM for like just Ubuntu VM to test it out, be a better developer. But for the most part, yeah, it's just been a lot of the work has been just porting, you know, and now that we're there, it is full steam ahead, laser focused, full steam ahead. So,
I think
right.
all the non-code stuff has kind of increased as well. In that,
Yeah.
just media stuff has definitely picked up. Art stuff has been really fun over the last couple of months.
Focusing on our brand.
Yeah, and one feels like a much more sort of tangible thing now that we've all got to work towards. So yeah, the pace has like picked up overall for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even over the lifetime of being open source. I mean, just the lifetime of the game in general. I think we've gone through different I call it like different generations. Like I think we're on Gen 3 right now, or maybe Gen 4 if you count licensing as 4th gen. But like we've gone through different. Like at the beginning, it was like we used Slack and like we had no idea other than like, oh, this game's gonna have surf and bunny hop and a timer, and like we'll figure it out. And like we were just adding like the core features. And just like just confused, like there wasn't really a direction and I wasn't really the best leader. And then it kind of died, and then it was revitalized when Zofa and I were like, okay, we need to be more serious about this. We need to have team meetings is the baseline. Like, we should have everybody on the same page. And we started to do those. We started to bring on, I think Gen 3 is when Jump community started to get involved, and like we really started to skyrocket of like, okay, now we know what the scope of the game is going to be and like what all we want. And then engine license, I guess you can count as like Gen 4 of like, okay, now we're like super serious about this. We're getting this game out, and it's no, like it's more serious than just like, oh, it's just something fun in the free time, like on the SDK that's publicly available, like anybody can help out. And it's like, now Valve knows we exist. Valve has talked to us. Valve Valve gave us engine and license, and like their blessing to use their code to make Momentum great. And it's just, oh, it's so awesome. So I am more pumped now. I am slightly upset that we can't have more people contribute. If we could have it our way, it'd be open. But yeah, let's definitely move on to the next question here. But thank you Molly, for that question about open source stuff. So
our next question, Yi is asking, what are your thoughts about newer graphical technologies when it comes to Momentum Mod and its balance with performance?
Right. So we've emphasized this in the dev blogs. DirectX 11 is the nice, I think, sweet spot for us. Vulkan and DirectX 12 are nice, but the graphical technologies used for like requiring those platforms, like ray tracing, for example, it's just too much. I think it's great for AAA. It's great for giant studios that can invest millions of dollars into shader, like latest lighting technology and stuff like that. But when it comes to an indie team working passion-based, work, we can't really go too in depth into graphical fidelity, right? So what we instead are focusing on is, first of all, getting rid of limitations. The main thing with DirectX 9, which is our renderer that was the case. It still kind of is for now. DirectX 9, the way that it works on Linux is it's emulated. So at runtime, it uses OpenGL on Linux, and it compiles shaders into like an OpenGL. Like, it takes like the bytecode of the compiled. I know this is getting really nerdy, but like, hear me out. It does this runtime compilation. I don't know if it caches the shaders or anything. It's just a runtime performance. Like, it almost feels hacky, right? Like, there used to be a Linux dev blog by Valve that was like called Faster Zombies. I don't know if it's publicly available. If somebody wants to find that and link it in chat, where they had a native OpenGL renderer, and even on Windows it performed better, right? So like the DirectX 9 implementation in general, and Slidey could probably attest to this. It's bad. You get shader model 3 at most, and that's pretty limited. Your shaders can't, it's more unlimited than shader model 2.0b. So shader model 2.0b is the Linux side of it. So like things like our PBR shader, physically based rendering shader, that had to like be scuffed on Linux because it couldn't support shader model 3. And now that we're on DirectX 11 and going more towards DXVK, we can now have like basically the same shader code, right? We still do that. We're not on Vulkan, right? We're not on a native shared renderer yet, or at all. All right, thank you, Batman, for the raid. Welcome, everybody. But yeah, we're not on, I want to say like a shared renderer yet. We're still on that kind of like different rater. But the idea is that we have shaders that will be able to be written for one shader model version and then emulate, working for both. So we don't have to worry about, okay, PBR needs like 5 different like things changed for it, and it'll look worse. It won't have parallax or something like that. Yeah. So I hope that with our DirectX 11 port, we're not going to go crazy with graphical, fidelity, because first of all, we don't have the time to, right? I think there's actually a later question that we can tie this into, but the majority of it's really just going to be being able to like take advantage of more modern hardware, that as well. Like, we doubt, I mean, there are definitely computers that don't have DirectX 11 capability, but for our player base, we're pretty certain that most people are going to be able to do DirectX 11 at the very minimum. So we're very confident about it. And yeah, it's a game about speed, right? If you have really beautiful maps, that's awesome. Like, really, our graphical improvements are more likely going to be to things like VRAD, making it use GPU, making it use path tracing, maybe. Like, making something that's more of a pre-step to make the map look better. We do get cascaded shadow maps, but the implementation is kind of messy. We might be trying to improve that with the DirectX 11 version. But yeah, you can't surf, and bunny hoppers are going to turn it all off anyway, right? Because they want high FPS. Like, we need to be able to prioritize high FPS. So if there's anything that, you know, we add that is maybe tanking visual quality and like tanking FPS, it will be toggleable, right? You can go and turn it off. You can have, you know, your FPS if that is what you want. But we will be definitely trying to make things look better. Source is very dated. DirectX 9, the renderer for Source 1 related games. CSGO starts to teeter more towards Source 2, but it's not exactly Source 2 level of fidelity. But at the same time, a game like Momentum doesn't really need photorealism. That's not like... If anything, and that's also a question, our like art style, right, isn't really going to be photorealistic. It's going to be more stylized. So it doesn't make sense to have, you know, photorealism, except for maybe lighting, right? Having light just be more realistic with like bounces, right? Better calculation for light bounces and stuff like that. Better shadows, right? Making maps look better, but not at the cost of extreme graphical performance. So it is a balance. It is definitely... It's good that you mentioned that. It is a balance with performance, because when you make things look better, yeah, the person with the, you know, GTX 700 card might not enjoy that because, you know, it tanks 30 FPS, so it better be toggleable, right? So it's just a balance. And, you know, while we understand people can't get the latest and greatest GPUs, we still want to be able to, you know, bring our renderer up to a more modern standard. Have modern rendering debugging tools. That alone is just being able to see why things look like shit. When like DX9, you have to use like an Intel debugger and it's like pain and everything. Yeah. So yeah, it is a balance. And we are absolutely going to be prioritizing performance more because we can. The nice thing about having the full engine is we can turn on things like vtrace, like being able to trace how long things take. We're going to be optimizing stuff like map loading. We're going to be optimizing stuff. We already optimized the map command to be asynchronous, right? We might optimize map loading to be asynchronous. How cool would it be to get into the map in like a second and then have like stream or stuff kind of like stream in? So like you can start to play and like have like the models and textures kind of like level of detail their way in, like a more modern engine does nowadays, right? So it's gonna be really, really fun. I think with this new graphics backend, and then also just the ability to debug it and make it better, it's gonna be really fun. Is there any other input that people add on this?
One thing when it comes to graphical fidelity that we have to note as well is that game modes like Surf and B-Hop, you're kind of going through maps so quickly that like if you put a bunch of time detailing it like you would just a regular map, you're putting a bunch of work into areas that the player's going to see for like half a second. And so you kind of have to prioritize like the greater kind of just the feel of the map rather than hyper detail everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know our stance on this, but I remember well, at least right now, you can that DX11 is a launch param, and I guess the idea moving forward is that DX9 will eventually be a launch param when we fully switch to DX11. And I remember Slidey saying that he does want to keep DX9 up to date, just so you know you can actually play with that. So if there's any like TF2ers that like to play in DX8 for some reason, at least you can get DX9. Yeah, but I don't know our like official stance on that, like whether we're going to keep DX9 around forever. But yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to bring up is just that like PBR and just some of the more modern graphic stuff is nicer for artists. Like nowadays, if you want to be making textures and stuff, usually you're going to be doing it in some kind of PBR workflow, as opposed to like the way Source handle textures currently is very much just like you have your base color texture and you've got your normal map and that's about it. And I mean, nowadays, like PBR is not a big like performance block or anything, but it just makes the workflow overall like just a bit nicer, and you have to do less faffing to get stuff to look like remotely okay in Source.
Yeah.
That's what got me into working on PBR in the first place. It's just the workflow for making anything look good with vertex lit generic is an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wanted something that looked a little bit metallic.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And even now, you can't even do a whole like a texture that varies in metalness or anything like that. You need PBR for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to touch on Exile's comment about the asynchronous map loading stuff, that would be just to get into the game quicker. It wouldn't be during like gameplay or anything. Like it wouldn't asynchronously keep streaming stuff in. We could look into that if we want to do like a different map format or something, but like GTA style, like. But yeah, no, it won't. It would just be like you would get into the game quicker, and it would just asynchronously bring stuff in, and hopefully not impact performance, because it would just kind of load things in as it does, and it would be more focused towards just getting into the game quicker. So you aren't sitting in a loading screen forever. But we also have load screen tips, so if we want to keep those, we're gonna have to find a way to re-implement those if we do that. So anyway, but yeah. Thank you, Yi, for that question. Let's move on.
Our next question, we have Redvenom asking, with engine access, will we see more paint functionality, like being able to save your paint in paint model, or in paint model ramps, or paint on model ramps, maybe I should say?
Yeah, paint the ramps made of models. Yeah. Yes. Saving paint is absolutely planned, just like save locks. It will save with your map. And then that way, we'll have some sort of like HUD interface that lets you kind of toggle it on and off. Ideally, I would like to improve the painting tech. We could use the Portal 2 version of it is a little weird. I haven't learned how it works, but yes, absolutely. Saving your paint, definitely important for us to do. Painting model ramps, I think that's just the limitation of like Source in general. We might just have to add it. That might be where the Portal 2 version kind of comes in. So yeah, painting model ramps might be an asterisk right now. I don't know. But yeah, saving paint for sure. We could have done that without engine license. We could have done like some hacky sort of like thing that did it in SDK build. So engine doesn't really grant us that, but it does give us better paint. Like better paint logic. So we can use Portal 2's paint like logic, not exactly the blobs of paint, if that makes sense. Because like the blobs of paint is like using their shaders and stuff. Like we would be using the same like kind of decal based. And then there were also interesting ideas, I think also reported in the GitHub repo, about ways that like you could make maps be more visually clear. So like ramps where their spines, like you could have different vertices or like color based on the like normal of the surface that's being applied to. So you can apply like paint at like a seam of like a ramp, and it would be like one color on one side and then another color on the other, and you could very, very clearly see where that ramp like what's it called? Spine. Yeah, ramp spine is. I keep calling it seam. The ramp spine, you would be able to see it very, very clearly. And then yeah, once you'd be able to save it. And then we're gonna also try to overhaul it so that other people's paint doesn't really affect yours. Like we're gonna probably overhaul the decal system there, which engine access lets us. So hopefully there. Yeah, we'll see on painting model ramps. I don't know. We kind of have like limited support right now. It depends on the model. I think it looks for like specific collision, I believe, for the model ones. But the paint on models for reference, they were turned off in SDK build and I believe in CSS because the decal system is it's very weird. It saves like the color in a weird way. So I believe Zen fixed that. So I believe paint on model ramps is actually possible and works properly. Like the colors of the paint stay the same. It doesn't affect the other decals all around. So that's just a matter of testing, I believe. But saving paint is absolutely coming. It's a awesome question, Redvenom. Thank you for asking that. Let's move on to the next one.
Our next question, we have Osplo asking, what features would you add if you had a AAA development team working on the project full time?
If you had an dev team. This is a great question, actually. So I alluded to it in the graphical fidelity question. It would be most likely graphical fidelity, right? Making really cool shaders on our new rendering backend, but also tooling. I feel like we could do a better hammer, but the amount of effort that would take is like, you would have to hire a team to do it. Like, you would have to hire effectively the Chaos Initiative team to do just hammer and like tooling. It needs overhauled, and that's what Source 2 did, right? They completely overhauled. But yeah, it is. Well, yeah, Hammer++ exists, but I'm talking about like moving off of MFC, which is the UI of Hammer. We would be moving towards like Qt or, God forbid, Electron, but like, something that could be cross-platform, because the tools should be cross-platform. There's no reason, that they Hammer++, it's even better. No, but I if we had that luxury, right, of like having the AAA dev team of like people that know what they're doing, it would most likely be more towards tooling and the graphical fidelity of the game. Being able to bring on level designers that have had, years of experience could help too. But our game is very unique in the way that like the level design of traditional games might work for like the detailing phase of our campaign, but not really the gameplay, right? So a AAA dev team doesn't, necessarily mean that, but like AAA dev team like working on tooling or graphical fidelity would be awesome. Shaders are fun, but it requires a lot of effort. Tooling is fun and, very, very fun. But it does also require a lot of effort too. So that's kind of my answer. I guess, do the other devs or people on the team have any other like desires if we had like a AAA dev team, I guess, helping us out or something?
Well, I think you said one time that that like sometimes studios hire whole teams to do like DX11 stuff, and like it was kind of all done by Slidey, which is pretty crazy. I wasn't expecting that at all. So, I mean, if DX11 didn't happen, I'd probably say DX11. Yeah, I don't know. And yeah, better hammer. I mean, God, that is just old and very difficult to work on because of its age.
I do think the direction we'd have to take Hammer eventually, that sort of and do what Source 2 did, would be the way making props currently works, and having to, you've got easier external program like
Blender, yeah,
and get them in game, and like it's just not an enjoyable workflow to work with, especially if you're trying to really heavily detail stuff. And yeah, I think end up doing something more like Source 2, where at least even if you are making props within Hammer that then get turned into props, and you still have a brush-based map format, you'd still something that stops us from like the whole, as good as Source Ops is, that would be like the biggest workflow improvement we could possibly have, I think.
Maybe you had a Maya button.
The Maya button, Maya tools exclusivity. And that is a good point, because like the workflow is the most important part. If we can reduce the time it takes from going from idea to in-game, that is phenomenal, like to reduce that time. Right now, Source Ops makes it awesome, right? Like these plugins for Blender make it really easy to bring it in game, because it handles all of that nitty gritty QC file using, Studio MDL, like exe, like, compiling it and like getting it like into the right folder. Like all of that workflow stuff would just be, Source 2 levels of, oh, you have an object, drag it in the hammer. Oh, there it is. Like that kind of stuff is so much fun. And like, if you could optimize that, bring mappers an editor that works with the game, make it more like Unity, where you can simulate the game in Hammer or simulate Hammer in the game, right? Making it a much faster, quicker iteration process. We're going to be exploring that kind of stuff, right? But yeah, like it's definitely important. And that's that brings it more towards AAA. But like AAA, I feel like AAA in this qualification just means like people that have had years of experience in the industry and then also financial basically, like, you know, like it's people that do it for a job, that have the motivation to do it because it's their job. You know, and that's like, that could lead towards like dedicated tasks or something. But yeah, it's yeah, tooling is definitely up there if we did have a team, AAA dev team on our side. Is there any other input? All right, let's move on to the next one then.
We have Slice asking, how will you keep the integrity of times like glitches, cheatings, exploits?
Oops. I believe Hona, do you want to start something?
Yeah, I can kick us off with that one. So I think the main difference is to make a distinction between glitches and cheating. So for glitches in a map or say in our game code, that's a kind of thing that will be fixed that, you know, you can't really do in the original games like CSS, TF2 or whatnot. But if you're actually using third-party tools to get an unfair advantage, then we're going to have a server-side anti-cheat to catch and ban you. So we won't have VAC or any client-side anti-cheat, but we will be validating runs and running an anti-cheat that we won't go into the technical depth on.
Yeah.
But make no assumption that we're not going to have it at all and you can cheat. We will catch you.
Yeah.
It won't apply to 99% of you, but we will have anti-cheat.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's I guess I'll leave it at there. It is right now it's client side, right? So like, yeah, it's client side, like run submission and stuff like that. We don't have it in place yet. It will be in place before 1.0. It is, yeah, it's very hard to talk about our systems or what we will have in place. But I guess some of the things that I can talk about, because these will be public, is more of the, so Hona touched on the glitches and exploit side. That's just going to be more of a time removal thing. Like if there's people finding like, oh, a zone peeks through the ground and I can hit it and then teleport to it and, save 30 seconds. Like we'll just patch the zone, delete the times, it like that kind of stuff, whatever, slap on the wrist mostly. But like for the most part, the main thing is going to be, using external tools to provide an unfair advantage in your gameplay against other players of the game. So that's cheating. That's kind of how we will scope it. I believe there's a question about tasks later on, so we'll have an asterisk about task related stuff. But the two kind of like, or I could do like a giant like GDC talk about like how much we might go into depth about like our different systems that we'll have for anti-cheat. But I guess to kind of keep it succinct for now, the main like 3 pillars that we're going to have is like verification, validation, and punishment. And so for verification, the 2 that I guess I could talk about, because it will be public, is there's a flag on your Steam account that marks whether or not you're limited. Limited accounts are brand new Steam accounts that don't have any money, anything spent. We do require you to have a Steam profile. So like a community profile, a name that we can pull, right? Because you have a name on the leaderboards. We're going to need that. And then we do require you to be an unlimited account. For 99% of all Steam accounts, this is not a problem. Everybody basically in chat, you'll be able to play the game. You're fine. For those that are creating new accounts that might have the limited account, you will have to spend $5 on Steam. And the stipulation here is that it's on anything. We recommend you buy CSS or Portal 2 or whatever, right? Like things that we mount. But for the most part, it can be on whatever, right? It could be skins. I don't know. As long as it counts towards the Steam flag going away, right? Marking you as unlimited. This flag only prevents you from submitting runs, by the way. This is, it's just a measure that we're putting in place, right? So the idea is that you can still play the game. Like even if you don't have an unlimited account, if you create the community profile, you can still play the game. You just won't have the online asset or online aspect. So you can download maps, you can play them, you can see runs, you just won't be able to submit runs. You won't get any cosmetic XP. We won't track anything. It'll all be local. So you'll still have that. You'll still be able to play. It just won't have that online experience. And we'll make that extremely clear if you are on a limited account. It'll pop up. We'll have UI. It'll explain every bit of that. We do recommend that you buy CSS or just have at least $5 spent on your account. And And I believe, keep in mind, that means spent via your own money. I don't believe you can get, was it something donated to you that's worth $5, right? Like, I don't think that works. So just keep that in mind. Those are kind of like the main things there. Again, our system, the main thing is our game is free to play, right? CSGO is free to play, right? But our game is free to play. It is an uphill battle. It's a cat and mouse game of, finding cheaters, banning cheaters. They circumvent, the auto detection if you have any, that kind of stuff. So while we will be playing that cat and mouse game a bit, the primary thing, right, with our anti-cheat, or with how we're going to be dealing with cheaters, is the most effective form of anti-cheat, in my opinion, is wasting cheaters' time. Because even if your game costs money, even if, like CSS, $15, whatever, you can get it for $1 when it goes on sale, so they could just stockpile that. But whatever, money, stolen credit cards, whatever, money is just one barrier. But like, time, you can't get back an hour. You can't get back the time it would take for you to grind out something to be able to submit times. So one of the other systems that we're going to have in place is just like CSGO does, kind of, you're going to have to actually play the game quite a bit. And we'll keep track of your PBs. Like, we'll store them, but they won't show up on the leaderboards for a while. Until you're like level 20, 30, I don't know. We'll figure out the exact level, but it's going to be kind of like that, to where we have systems in place that are going to more or less kind of like guide more towards like, you don't want to have to keep doing this sort of thing. So not only will it hopefully tackle Smurfs, right? You're going to have to spend $5 on new accounts anyway. But again, money is whatever. But it's also going to tying in with that philosophy, right? It's hours that you're going to have to put into the game, every single account. Maybe there's going to be black market account service, whatever. It doesn't, like, cheating is always a rabbit hole. It goes deep, deep, deep. There's private cheats. There's public cheats. There's going to be people all over the place, with different cheats and different things. And I will make this clear. Hona already said it. We will have server-sided anti-cheat. We're not client-based. So if there's people spreading rumors or, misinforming you, we will have server-side anti-cheat. Runs will be validated. Okay? It's not just going to blindly submit replays like we currently do. You will have your own validated. But yeah, the exact systems in place, I think what we'll probably do is document, what all we do, and maybe sometime in the future, either do a stream on here or GDC talk. I don't know what kind of opportunities will arise, but talk about like what we've done and how we kind of tackled cheating in a free-to-play game, because it's big, and not relying on VAC is also really big. But also, if you think about it, I guess something to keep in mind. Our game doesn't rely on playing with other players, right? So we'll talk more a bit about that in the multiplayer section of the questions. But yeah, so hopefully that answers this. Let's definitely move on. But thank you, Slice, for asking about this, because that is one of the questions we get a lot. And it's kind of like hand-waved, like, yeah, we'll solve it. But I mean, we can't go into detail about how we're going to solve it, because obviously if we did, it's things that people would look out for. So it's, again, our anti-cheat's not going to be purely through security through obscurity or anything like that, but it's more helpful if people don't know exactly how systems work, right? It's better that way. But yeah. All right, let's move on to the next question here.
Our next question, we have Amp asking, what will be the stance of people getting caught cheating? Will bans transfer over to other game modes? Like if you crouch bug checkpoint in the surf game mode, will you be banned on all the other game modes?
Yeah, Hona, I believe you wanna.
Yeah, sure. So it's the same with what I started off with about cheating. If it's an exploit in a map, that's something that ideally will be fixed in the map submission process. But that kind of thing, your time will just be invalidated. But if you're using third-party software to cheat, then you're just banned forever in all game modes. There's, if you cheat once, you're just going to keep cheating. There's no real redemption there. But yeah, if it's a little like exploit in a map or game code, that's something that will just invalidate the run, and hopefully we patch it, or the mapper patches it.
Yeah, zero tolerance. If people cheat, like use external programs and are caught and admit, or we find it through overwhelming evidence, yeah, you get banned. It's across the entire game. The main thing though about that, right, is like, yeah, again, we're a free to play game, right? So a ban doesn't necessarily mean anything. Again, wasting time is better than outright just banning. But we will also we'll be kind of keeping an eye out. People that are finding exploits and reporting them to us won't even have any like if they submit a run and they come to us and they're like, here, check out this run that we did, like look at exactly like what I did in this and like explain how they did it. That's preferable. Like we would prefer to have that, and we could just fix it, right? And we'd remove the time, but there's no hard feelings or anything. You don't get like flagged or anything for it. But yeah, if people are going to be like abusing systems and not reporting it and like constantly doing that, it could lead to maybe banning because of but like it's also good to keep those people around because they tend to find these kinds of things. And it's like if you find these things through following the breadcrumb trail, I guess, of replays, it's easier to patch it. So yeah, and then I guess as a speedrunner, right, I'll talk more about this. I think we have a question about how we're gonna allow strats and like shortcuts and stuff, but like as a speedrunner, right, like exploits and stuff, yeah, I mean, obviously we want to have a level playing field, but I'm also used to like exploits existing and being abused and getting a better time and stuff. So game related exploits we're going to want to patch though. We want a level playing field. Map related stuff, Hona brought it up, the map submission process we'll also talk about in a future question. That should catch hopefully all of that. We'll see though. But yeah, okay, that's thank you, Amp, for that question. Let's move on to the next one.
Next question, we have Starly asking, who gets to decide what maps get added to the official map list, and will there be community polls to choose what maps get added in the future?
All right, this is a really great question. Thank you, Starly. Okay, so the way that our game works, right? The way that our game works is because we're not a server that can only run one map at one time, we can allow significantly more content. The way that it's going to work, right, is we will have kind of like almost like 3 categories. It might be more like 2, but the way that it'll work is we will have official ranked maps, and those are the ones that are advertised and like shown on the map selector and prioritized for like people to play. But we can add maps like Biham Freedom Puppies, or maybe maps that aren't really the most quality, or like that don't necessarily competitively play well, but they still are playable and completable. And we can add these maps as unofficial. And because of our platform that allows you to play whatever you want, whenever you want, you can go and play these unofficial maps and still have a leaderboard. And then depending on maybe how bad the map is, or like objectively bad, it'll be more subjective, I guess, but like how bad the map is or how quick it is, it might or might not allow cosmetic XP still. Like, if you play it and like grind it and stuff, you'll get a little bit of cosmetic XP. But for the most part, the maps that are like, I believe I outlined this on our forums, by the way, if anybody, any formers in chat, the forums, I said that objective map quality is what gets it added, right? So if the map is completable, if it plays well, it's not an FPS tank, stuff like that. If the map is all right, we're most likely going to add it, right? There's no reason for us really not to. It could be unofficial, right? But then the subjective quality of the map determines how it's actually going to be ranked. And I believe the next couple of questions are going to get into how that's going to be determined. But to answer the first question, who gets to decide? It's kind of a meme, but it's like we're calling it High Council or map reviewing teams. We'll get into that in the next question, but yeah, like it'll be an official process. I believe I guess I could talk about the map submission process for a bit. So obviously we're not going to have some like shadowy like backdoor like, oh, like send this admin your map and it'll get added in 3 months or never. It's up to the admin. We're instead going to actually formalize it. So when you submit a map, there's the first stage, which is looking at the overall info of the map. Just looking at like what you're submitting, like what game mode, making sure you aren't submitting like slurs or whatever, right? Like just looking at like content, right? Just the initial phase. It then goes into a approved for private testing phase. That's the very next phase. Approved for private testing. This allows mappers through our website to add testers via the credits section. So not only do you get the credits applied for your testers, but this is how you invite them. And if you have like a crew that like normally test your maps as a mapper, you can add them here. It can stay in private testing for however long it needs, right? Obviously, if maps go into private testing and get stale, we might reach out to the mapper and be like, hey, what's going on with it? Because we don't want to like also have our website or like our game used for like, you know, just raw storage or something like that. So ideally maps actually make it onto our site. So we'll try to be very active when looking at that like queue. But the private testing side is mapper determines like however long they need. If they don't even want any private testing, we have the next step. Oh yeah, thank you for linking it, Hona. This is what I'm going through right now, by the way. This is the overall workflow. There's a public testing period, right? It is a mandatory 1 week minimum public testing period where we effectively have a section on our map selection where you can test available maps. The idea is that during these testing phases, mappers can upload new versions of the BSP and new zones and stuff, and it'll use like a temporary leaderboard for it. And you know, you won't get too much cosmetic XP. Like we'll probably give you some more of like a bonus for testing the map and giving feedback, because we want that. We don't want people to just play the map and like like disappear or something. We want mappers to be able to get feedback for it. So 1 week minimum public testing period. Anybody can play your map. Anybody can play it, give you feedback as a mapper, and minimum 1 week gives you more than enough time to iron out maybe faulty routes, shortcuts that you don't want, things like that. You know, we'll try to encourage people playing maps and testing as much as possible and giving feedback there. After that week passes, it doesn't have to go into the ready for review phase. If you want more public testing, by all means, right? It just, after the week, the button to move, you know, to the ready for review unlocks. So if you need more time, absolutely, take as much time as you need. So when the map is ready, it'll then go into the ready for review. And I guess we can actually move to the next question, because that actually directly ties in with what this review phase will look like.
Our next question, Murgle is asking, will there be some kind of high council that makes decisions like maps to add, strategies to allow, players to ban? If so, will there be different councils for each game mode? Who will be able to join the council? How will the council make a final decision like voting, community input, or other weighted votes?
All right, so this is tying back into that last question, right? So the ready for review phase of the map, I guess, okay, hold on. To tackle the questions here, yes, there will be a high council. It is most likely going to be a collection of Momentum team members, right? Like we'll try to be as impartial as possible, but for the most part, it's like we have some say, right, in maps being added to our game, right? So obviously we're part of every council. We're like more of admins, kind of like just, you know, being the higher level, like if there's any problems or something, we can step in. Impartialness, I guess, is that impartiality? That's kind of like what we're going to take the angle of when we're approving maps. We have every motivation to add maps, right? We want content in our game. We don't want to reject. We aren't a limited server, right? People can play whatever they want, whenever they want. It's really just like bandwidth, I guess. Like if there's like a 3 terabyte map, maybe we might, but you know what I mean? So there will be a map review team, and that is per game mode. And ideally, it's a mix. It's a mix of people. It's really like we're going to be looking at people that really know about their game modes, right? So people that are really good, yeah. People that are high ranked, yeah. But also noobs, you know, people that may be more of a completionist. They're not going for good times, but they play a lot of AHOP or something, you know, like something of that mode. And that's really important, right? Like we want a good balance of input from both veterans and newbies, because, you know, as long as people care about the mode, that's the most important. Like we don't want just veterans, right? Just veterans because they're just going to be like, okay, I want a specific type of surf, right? And like lead us down a path of like optimized surf or optimized AHOP, or, you know, like it could lead to like a specific vision, right? So being more impartial by introducing different points of view, right? Not just veterans, but also mappers, you know, people that have made content for these modes, right? We want to have different kinds of points of view when you look at maps submitted for a mode. So who will be able to join the council? It's just basically people that know their stuff, right? That know their stuff about the mode. We'll be looking at that. Like we could probably have an application process. We'll have like a Google form that we could like look up your account and stuff. So obviously, hopefully you're playing the game and not just trying to get on the High Council to dictate at like TF2 veterans coming in and being like, I'm going to block every map or something. So yeah, so ideally it's like an application process. You just like let us know that you're interested and we look at like your stats that you have for the game, and like you could explain like what you could bring to like, we'll have like questions on the forum and stuff. So how will the council make a final decision? So it's really cool. What we can do is we can have on our website, just like the map submission process, all of that, we can have a dashboard for like maps being submitted and reviewed and stuff. And like when a map goes ready for review, we can actually, we'll get everybody on the council into that dashboard, and they could vote through the dashboard, first anonymously. They give their honest opinions without anybody else seeing what they said, and like only admins can look at it. And then what we do is when everybody's voted on the High Council, we can reveal it to everybody, and then they can discuss it. So like it'll be like we could have maybe like a forum or like some comments or something thread that lets you see like what maps, you know, what they think about a map being added. And then that way you have contention arising earlier, you know, but like we want honest opinions. We don't have people bandwagoning. We don't have the noobs just agreeing with the veterans because, you know, oh, they know what's best. It's people giving honest opinions about the tier, about the description, maybe not the name. That's not really their their forte, but they'll be able to give input on the map honestly, and then discuss it. And ideally, right, if there's a majority, you know, in favor of doing a specific thing, it will be approved then. But obviously, it's a group of people. They might have high contention. So one of the things we can do is when a map has high contention, we can bring all of that data to the public. We could be like, hey, there's this map that was publicly tested, you know, so on and so forth. Do people think this should be added? Do people think this should be, you know, if people think that this shouldn't be added, why not? If people think that this shouldn't be ranked, why not? And that kind of opens it up. Again, the public doesn't really know what's good for them. It's kind of, you know, people will start to like mob mentality a map, right? We don't want people to get bullied. We want fair and open and honest discussions about maps and the decisions being made against them, or for them, right? So yeah, community input is kind of more of an asterisk of like, maybe, right? Like maybe if it gets to the point where, yeah, we have to turn to the community on this one, see what the general public thinks about a map. Because again, maps can always be added. And the other nice thing about it too, is maps can always be ranked later. Maps can be added as unranked and just kind of like messed around or whatever. The rank point system that we'll have can be applied to an existing leaderboard because it only bases on times and placement. So yeah, so we can always like add a map unofficially and then later down the line make it an official map if like the zoomers of the game mode come in and like, this is a really cool map, why isn't this ranked? And like enough people are like, yeah, let's add it as a ranked map, why not? So yeah. That's the really nice thing about that. Weighted votes. I mean, yeah, obviously newbies shouldn't have more controlling power over a mode. One moment. Like newbies probably shouldn't have more power over like veterans. So we might wait, you know, input. Like if there's people that are like, yeah, this is a crap map, but like, you know, they're new to it and they just can't beat it or something, like, okay, fine, whatever. But like, if there's like, everybody is like, yeah, this map isn't really that, you know, it's not fun to compete on. Yeah. So it might not be weighted, but obviously it'll be kind of inherently, we won't like assign like point values or anything to votes, but we will definitely be taking different people's opinions at different like, I guess, face values, right? So yeah, so hopefully that answers that. Did anybody have any input on that question?
One thing I was just going to mention is that all this stuff can be integrated with the website. So like feedback and all that will be, seamless and easy to just get statistics, whether, newbies or high ranked players like it and stuff like that, just to get a good insight that you usually wouldn't from a forum where you might get 2 people playing a map.
Yeah.
Or from doing it on Steam Workshop.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's a good point. Oh, sorry, what was that, Hona?
I was just going to say, and say if we do set a map as timed and then it turns out to be just god awful, we can always, remove it from timed as well.
Yeah. To everybody's probably dismay of losing rank points, right? We could remove a map from the ranked pool if it's gets revealed that, the map wasn't that great, somehow slept through. A beetle. Yeah, so it was a great point brought up about the workshop. The reason why we're doing this submission process is because the workshop doesn't have anything close to this, right? There's not really, like, you can leave comments on submissions in the workshop. You can, like, I don't know, like, it's just, like, it's nice that the workshop exists, but there's only 2 uses for it, which is free-for-all, everybody uploads everything, and, like, everything can be subscribed to, or it's like people vote on it, right? They can play it, but they vote on it, and then it officially gets added. And yeah, that submission process is good, but then how do you mark something as ready, like ready for review and like testing, like, so yeah, it's while we will probably have workshop support in the future, it won't be for maps. It'll probably be for like miscellaneous stuff like HUDs, different like things, because yes, you will be able to fully customize your HUD, panorama HUD and menu and stuff. So absolutely, like, we want to support workshop, but not in the official mapping side of things. So hopefully that answers that. Thank you, Murgle, for that question. Moving on to
Marble asking, how will decisions be made for skillsurf in terms of what's allowed and what's not?
So that's kind of been answered, I think, hopefully. Oh yeah, okay, I guess going back to like the things that like maps to add, strats to allow. Maps to add, yes, the map review team is directly in charge of maps to add. Strats to allow, that's mapper based. If the mapper is trying to do something malicious, the map review team should catch that and see it, right, and report it to us. But it is mapper based. Maps should be primarily, right, like strats to allow in a map should be mapper based. It shouldn't be server or admin dictated. It's a gameplay experience crafted by a mapper. We wouldn't want to, step on them on that. So yeah, players to ban. No, our anti-cheat's gonna kind of handle that. I mean, obviously we'll have like a moderation role, like we'll have moderation and like user reports and stuff. But yeah, like we're not gonna be like, hey, this guy is like a lame nerd, ban him. Like we're not gonna allow that. like we'll have when it comes to like bans as well, we're gonna have ban review. So like any admin related like destructive and or like even adding a map will require multiple admins to approve it. So it won't be like if one of our admins or someone gets hacked, they can't destroy the website and the the ecosystem. So we'll have like different systems in place that kind of prevent that abuse. But also, yeah, I mean, like for the most part, report users. If people are, if there's something fishy going on, report people. So we'll review it in the report review. And then in particular for skillsurf, hopefully that's been answered. The map review team for skillsurf is only going to effectively decide what's being ranked, right? And then whether or not the tier is correct and any other feedback for that. If a map is in review and needs more testing, we can always bump it back to public or private testing. So there's no, like, if it gets to it, there's no like way to not go backwards, right? We can always bump it back. If it needs more data, more testing, we can always do that, right? Usually when maps are added, it's gonna be pretty final. Except for those cheats and exploits that we mentioned, right, that we could easily fix with a fast like patch, right, to the map or something. It is going to be effectively final. So strats in the map, shortcuts, etc. Again, if you don't test a map, right, and you complain that something wasn't found, that's not our problem. You should be testing maps. Now, I know that people can't always play the game, but ideally, right, a 1 week period to check out a map, that should be enough for people that have opinions on how things should be to check out a map and give input. Because, yeah, if you don't, tough luck. It's in the game. Again, like things being patched in terms of gameplay, it would either be like a V2 of the map or something where it's a separate entry, or, you know, we would have to, like, again, we don't want to delete leaderboards for no reason. If mappers are like, oh crap, there's this thing that I need to fix, and it's like we measure the impact, and it's like, okay, should this just be resubmitted, like refreshed? So, like, that's kind of where that goes. So, yeah, I mean, it's more or less just going to be talking to the community and testing, right? So that's kind of how they'll be made.
Well, another thing, in terms of behavior that we would punish, like on CSS servers, you might get like a ban for crouch boosting or like spinning in the spawn zone or something. We would rather prioritize actually fixing those within the game and preventing it, and giving mappers tools to prevent that behavior, rather than trying to police that kind of gameplay.
Very good point. Yeah, we want to leave it mostly up to mappers. Yeah, and we will absolutely provide tools. We have limit movement. We have, you know, a bunch of different like block zones. We can have timer cancel zones too. So if there's like a route that mappers are like, no, that was bad, that was not caught or submitted, you know, for review, we could go in and add a timer cancel zone if we want. It's really messy, but it still works, right? Like it'll validate it to where, you know, the zone would cancel the time. So any runs going through that, the run validator would catch. So yeah, very good point there. Yeah. It is more power to the mappers, right? the backbone to our game. So, all right, let's move on to the next one. Next question. Thank you, Marble, for that question, by the way.
Paddy's asking, will the menus support unranked maps, or will they need to be added and selected manually?
So yes to both, actually. I think I've already gone over that. Maps can be unranked. The main menu will support it. It'll be a separate tab. We want people to play official maps. We want competition, right, on official maps. But they will be there. It'll be there under a filter that you have to, you know, turn on, or like a separate tab or something. Again, the UI design's being implemented and then iterated upon. So we'll see how best to do it. But yeah, and then the other side of that is we will never ever prevent you from loading a local version of a map. Never. You can always play maps locally. So if people are mapping for another game, which is unfortunate, but we allow that. You can still load those maps manually. If you don't want to go through our process or submit it traditionally. So, yeah. So hopefully that answers that. Was there any other input you guys had on this question? All good. Thank you, Paddy, for that question. Moving on to the next.
Our next question we got is by, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, Leesriize.
Leesriize.
Leesriize, that's how we do it.
Yeah.
Will it be possible to implement some kind of daily, weekly, or monthly, yearly success for some game modes? For example, small triksurf maps with a few tricks on it that has to be fully completed before the specific date in order to get the reward, like a success, a prize, a badge, or something to show some kind of status.
Yes. Thank you, Leesriize, for this question. This is really good. So how do we motivate people to keep playing the game, right? This is a very good question. It is possible. It is fully possible, and we are going to be doing it. So I think the three kind of main categories of things like related to successes, right? The first one is going to be dailies or like temporaries. And they basically only give cosmetic XP, and they're just random tests to do generated basically every week, month, etc. Or day, right? Dailies, weeklies, monthlies. They don't unlock anything. They just give you cosmetic XP, which goes towards units, which give you, the normal cosmetics. There will be then challenges, which are more permanent tasks, leading towards maybe progression. We want you to play different game modes. We want you to beat certain tiers. We want you to, like play new maps, stuff like that. So the dailies and weeklies, it's like that is definitely going to be a thing that's more towards getting the sorry, train of thought. So the dailies and weeklies are more for cosmetic XP, temporary like goals to do, promoting different people to play, you know, different things that people can do. The challenges are going to be permanent and can tie to specific like cosmetics in our store. So, or not store, but like in general, right, on our site. So beating, for example, a tier of every game mode could lead to somebody, you know, getting a game mode specific cosmetic because they did that challenge. You know, being able to represent yourself in the game modes that you love is definitely something that we want to promote. So not just for some game modes, for every, right? So for every game mode, it'll be game wide because cosmetic XP and cosmetic system is game wide. It's every game mode that you're playing. So yeah. So triksurf maps with a few tricks on it that have to be fully completed. Maybe you know, that could be actually part of the daily challenge. Is like, hey, in triksurf, beat this trick on this map, right? So, which one is Go Knock? That's me. I'm Go Knock. Nice to meet you, aka Grognak the Barbarian from the Fallout series.
What's the end boss of Half-Life 1?
Aka Gonarch. Gonarch from Half-Life 1. Hi, nice to meet you. But yeah, so absolutely. This is what, again, we don't want to make it so that if you aren't playing the game for a week, you miss out. So talking more, so let me focus more on monthly and yearly stuff. So challenges are permanent, right? They can be done whenever. Dailies and weeklies are going to be rotating tasks. Monthly and yearly things, let's talk about this. So we have an idea to have kind of seasonal based things. So for example, we could have a winter season where we have, we prioritize maybe playing every like map that has snow or like a winter theme in it. We could have, you know, things celebrating specific holidays if we want to. I don't know. That might start to get politically incorrect or whatever. So we might not go down that route too much, but it would be more season based because that's the thing, right? Competition is eventually going to hit a point where, because anybody can play anything at any time, it'll eventually hit a point where maybe there's not a lot of motivation to compete. So what if we do monthly / half yearly sort of seasons, maybe not half year, like upwards of 3 months, seasons that take a group of maps and put it kind of in this roster that is a new leaderboard, new rank points, like kind of temporary sort of per season. And then it is like from the get-go, fresh start for everybody. Like go and compete on these maps, be the best, you know, of everybody on these maps. And we could do that per game mode. We could do that game wide. Like there's a lot of really fun ideas that we have for like seasonal based things, not just seasonal, seasonal cosmetics. So things like Santa hats, right? Or whatever, right? Like whatever you want to do to celebrate the cosmetics there, but also just seasonal in terms of competition, having different leaderboard or like a temporary leaderboard to be able to do like specific things during specific times. Yeah. So surfing as a dreidel, just a spinning dreidel going down the surf ramp. Yeah. Stuff like that, right? Like, yeah, like that would be fun. I think that kind of stuff. So you have the daily, the weeklies, the permanent challenges, and then the kind of semi-monthly, right? Or like seasonal kind of leaderboard stuff, right? So hopefully that is enough to motivate people playing it. But then, you know, I guess we haven't even talked about like the campaign, right? Where that's its own like sub speedrunning community that would be on speedrun.com and stuff, right? Of like, that would draw people, I think, in, because it's a set, like, you know, other than seasons, I guess, it's a set track of maps that are consistent. You know, you grind it out, you get better, you know? So like, there's definitely going to be a lot of like different ways to promote playing the game repeatedly, right? And that is very high on our priority list. Yeah. So did anybody have any input for this question? All right. Thank you, Leesriize, for that question. That's very good that I'm able to talk about that because, yeah, absolutely. Playing the game and promoting playing the game more and more is absolutely on our to-do. Even though we're free to play, right? Like anybody can play it at any time. We want to promote people playing it with their friends, you know, with others, as much as we can. So moving on to the next question.
Our next question is Isabella asking, is there a place for players or people in the community interested in supporting the game to develop or to support development financially? And if not, why so?
Very good question, Isabella. So, okay, let me explain the monetization because I believe the next couple of questions are going to be about monetization and our approach to it and, you know, why we had to take this approach and things in particular. So, because we're a source engine game, the license involved with the Source SDK stipulates that you can make your game. It doesn't have to be open source. We went the open source route, but you have to make your game completely for free. It has to be released for free. If you want to commercialize your game, aka sell it, make money through microtransactions through it, make money off of Steam trades, make money off of cards, etc., you have to buy a Source Engine license, which in the past, I don't know if it's changed. I think it's changed now. I don't know what the actual price is now, but in the past was $35,000, right? So you have to raise that capital or strike a deal with Valve to be able to take that cut out of your game sales. And for the most part, right, that's very daunting. But then you have the thing of so what does accepting money for the game, for game sales, consistent income, what does that mean, right? So I would have to incorporate. I would have to then contract out everybody on the team. I would then have to figure out financials, right? How much I should pay everybody on the team. But then what about the people's maps who we're, basically using for content of our game, right? Do we pay them? Do we have a system in place for that? And for the most part, it muddies the water. This game is a passion-based project. I love working on this game because I want to play it. I want to play the fuck out of it. There's a question later on about what happens after 2.0. I'm going to be playing the shit out of it. That's what I'm going to be doing. I cannot wait to play and just I constantly joke about with the team that post 1.0 and post 2.0, I'm going to just watch people play it because I'm excited to see what people think. But post 2.0, I'm going to, really go ham. I'm going to speedrun the campaign. I'm going to cheat. No, I'm just kidding. Developer times on the leaderboard. No, but I'm making this game because I want to play it. There's not an existing game like this, right? That is what I want in a game like this. So, so sorry, back to the question here. A little bit off topic. The monetization route that we can go instead is at will donations, right? People like what we're doing, they can donate. So linked by Hona in the chat, and down below in our description, is a site that lets you see exactly how much money people have at will donated to us, which means you are just being like, hey, I like what you guys are doing. Here's some money. Here's $5 or whatever. It's not required. It is not required at all for this game to be developed. We are not financially constricted. Both we have enough people on the team that can support this game financially. That's never a problem. I guess the side of when it comes to the engine license, that wasn't always the case. An engine license is a little more complex, but when it comes to do we need server costs and stuff, we can pay for that, but it would be really nice to be able to support the team and build get better hardware for the team, being able to use the community support to be able to support us in our development, right? To be able to, so I have some stuff listed in the description there. We could use it for upgrading or paying for the server costs. It, it takes a bit of the burden off of us, right? It's still not nothing, but it is, it's, in one side we can pay for it, but on the other it's helpful, right? It's something we don't have to worry about. We could just use a pool of money to pay for. And then there's also the side of hardware upgrades, right? Getting our team members better hardware to better develop for the game. Things like that. We can look into the hardware costs for our anticheat and stuff like that we're gonna have. And last but not least, maybe marketing the game, which is also a separate question. We could potentially use some of the funds there. So it is more of a team pool, shared account. Just if people like what we're doing, they can donate and support us. It's not required. We appreciate everything that is given to us though. And we've been already given a lot more than I ever expected, honestly. So I appreciate everybody that does donate to us, or that does actually donate and support us, both not just financially, but also just like you guys in Discord being like, yeah, like hyping up the updates, reacting to the blog posts, like getting hyped for the game, because 1.0 and onwards is going to be awesome. I cannot wait to get this out to you guys. So yeah, that was, I guess, I hope that covers, like, if not why. The main thing is just like, yeah, we didn't want to sell the game. I don't believe in microtransactions. It's a good way, I guess, to make money, but it's just such a scummy practice. Cosmetic, you know, like I guess we'll go to the next question. Oh, actually, no, I think it was, oh man, we have quite a couple actually. Okay, sorry, I forgot the order of this. But yeah, so I guess just in terms of financial for the game, if we could sell the game, I wouldn't want to. Like, I don't think there should be a barrier to entry for these modes. CSGO and TF2 are already free as well. So, like, you have to make your game compelling to be able to be purchased, right? Over just playing CSGO or TF2, right? But at the same time, right, we want to be able to, you know, like, take in support of people that would like to give us it. So that, I think Open Collective, our Open Collective link is the best way to do that, because you guys see exactly how much we're making and where exactly this money is going. So when we start to use it, we can actually start to show our receipts publicly. Not the exact like receipt, but like, you know, like, hey, we're using $30 to buy like somebody a new webcam or something, like something like that, right? Where we have that kind of in the public ledger so you guys can see it. That is really important to me, because otherwise it would be like, hey, you're donating to my PayPal. And is it going to go to the team? That's up for you to just, no. But like, you know what I mean? Like it's allowing us to be very open about what we're doing. And if we could monetize, I think I guess this is sort of answering a future question. If we could monetize, the only thing that I could see worth doing that would be like a constant stream of money would be making the official leaderboards and like rank XP and statistics part of a paid DLC. So like you would pay $5 one time to unlock the rank side of things. So like ranked leaderboards with rank points with you know, like all the replays being stored and stuff. Otherwise it would be like completely free to play still. And, you know, you would have people play the game and like it would use like Steam leaderboards, not really anti-cheat protected, right? So it'd be kind of a worse experience, but you'd still be able to play the game free to play, right? Everything's there. It just doesn't have the stats and our website and anti-cheat side of things. So I don't know. The main thing there is like, yeah, I like the at-will donations. I know it's probably the worst financial thing. It would be cool if Steam had a pay what you want button. I don't know if they ever contemplated that, or maybe they did and it just didn't prove to be really that effective. A pay what you want button would be really cool if like Steam could allow that. But otherwise, yeah, I am very happy with the Open Collective link. So yeah, and you can always donate to individual people on the team as well. Again, that's not prevented or anything, but like if you support what the game is doing in our platform and stuff like that, you can absolutely support us on Open Collective. So yeah, hopefully that answers that. Thank you for asking that, Isabella. We'll move on to the next question. We got quite a bit of monetization talk to do, so.
Yeah, our next question, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this person's username alias correctly. Ekibunnel is asking, any merch for the game? What about
in real life?
What about a coin, but it's the Momentum Mod logo made out of metal with a nice paint finish, kind of like the Global Offensive coin that they made a couple years back.
Absolutely. So thank you, Ekibunnel. Hopefully we're not butchering your name, but thank you so much for this question. Yes, actually. So monetization, right? Again, kind of tackling a later question earlier. Monetization for the game is going to be kind of like the 3 pillars. Again, I like pillars, I guess. The first one is donations. So Open Collective, if you guys like what we're doing and just want to give us money for supporting us, you can do that. Open Collective is there. The second one's going to be merch. We will absolutely want to have merch. I think I personally want merch. I want a Momentum Mod shirt. I'm gonna basically buy the team Momentum Mod t-shirts and have like a team design for it. So that way, if we ever go out to a GDQ, which future question I think as well, we can like represent, you know, the game and the team. But also, yeah, like having t-shirts, having, you know, just different like, I don't know, like different avenues of like tangible so mouse pads, for example, like that's really big. Like you need a giant one for Surf, so a giant Momentum mod mouse pad I think would be pretty cool. You know, having just various things that like stickers for different things, like the game mode icons being stickers or something, right? You could put it on your like mugs and stuff, laptops, right? So things like that, I think that'd be really cool. I think that having those kinds of opportunities for people to buy just merch, again, not related to the game itself, right? Like it's external money, and ideally, right, the funds for that, right, the split would be primarily favoring the designer. So we get really well designed stuff, and the designer gets really well paid for it, and we just take maybe like a little bit of a cut because it's, you know, momentum stuff. It's, you know, support for the game. But yeah, so like there's a lot of opportunities. 3D printed stuff, absolutely, Kaneen. Very good suggestion. Like 3D printed like conchs or something, right? Rockets. Yeah, programmer socks. Anyway, yeah, like anything. We could start to look into that. Obviously, we want to be refined with our brand. We don't want to go all over the place. You know, we don't want to sell out or whatever, right? It doesn't want to be. I don't want to visually or make it seem like we're selling out or something. But having a way for people to have something tangible but not related directly to the game, more so like related to the idea of the game, right? So merch, t-shirts, mouse pads, 3D printed stuff, stickers, in real life coin. I don't know. That seems more of a CSGO specific things because they have the coin in the game, right? I don't know. Momentum. We could probably do like 3D printed stuff, like the unit logo or something. That might be like the only thing relevant to it. But yeah. So does anybody have any input on merch related stuff? All good. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know, I've been kind of thinking about different designs for shirts and hoodies, and I've also been kind of working on kind of a different personal like clothing brand. So yeah, I think I might work on that.
Hell yeah.
We'll see what I can come up with, but yeah, it's definitely something we want to work on in the near future.
Yeah. All right, thank you, ekibunnel. Sorry again for the butchering if we did that. Thank you for that question.
So we have Aart asking, or Aart is curious because they've been following for a little bit and they were wondering if they could donate to help out with development and also get a key in the process.
This is also something we've been asked a ton. I've been asked this quite a bit in PMs. I love the enthusiasm for people wanting to play the game. Unfortunately, right now, we don't want people to just play the game and then see that it's unfinished and leave. The reason why keys are so prestigious, I guess, is because we want people to give input towards development. I know that it's not exclusive, right? There's an overlap of people that would pay and give good feedback, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, we can't accept money for keys. And we never will. We have really good relations with Valve right now. I do not want them to ever suspect that we're taking money for keys or anything like that. That goes directly against, again, our licensing. So I do not want to ruin that. So no, you can't get a key for donations. But if you contribute to the project, so we have open source documentation, we have open source website code. If you're a conquer, right? Or if you're an up and coming game mode person that knows their stuff, that knows where the game mode should be going, like I think defrag might actually be the next added game mode. Lumia is doing great work. That's actually a later question. We'll need defraggers with keys and like to test the game and like, you know, make sure it's good. I guess maybe not particularly for the movement, but like how it'll be integrated. But yeah, like that's what we're looking for. We need people to give us feedback on the game so we hit 1.0, everybody plays it and it feels like it should, right? For all of the modes. So people that, you know, maybe haven't heard of the game and or were hesitant about it can then try it out and then, you know, potentially fall in love or something. We'll see. But yeah, so yeah, no donations for for getting the key, but you can donate to us. You can donate to us now. I think this question was asked before we had our open collective, so you can now, but you won't get a key, unfortunately. So, yeah, I guess we'll move on to the next question then.
Our next question, we have Firestabber asking, what's the project's monetization and marketing strategy?
So hopefully the first part's been answered. If not, kind of a reminder, right? The first pillar is the open collective donation link. If you guys like what we're doing and want to send some cash our way, feel free to. The second one is merch. We will have merch. Yeah. So wait for that. The third one is going to be the OST. So we want our Monolith is here. He's probably excited to hear this. We want our and I believe Happy was here, I believe, earlier. We want our sound designers to make money from the OST. So ideally, we'll probably just have like a really simple contract written where we have full permission to use the OST, but they have full permission to sell and monetize the OST. So if you guys like the campaign or like maybe menu music, if we do that, if you like that, you can go and buy it and support the artists that created that. So yeah, that's kind of the monetization strategy. We can't do anything deeper than that unless we buy a monetization or full license. So yeah, and then let's talk marketing, right? So word of mouth is working pretty well, in my opinion. Just as a statistic, we currently have 9,300, so 9,300 wish lists, and that is insane. That's insane. Like, it's crazy how many people are pumped for the game, and it's like it's still coming. It's not close to 1.0. We haven't even tried to market it yet. That's awesome. Word of mouth still and will forever always be like the greatest probably way the game will be kind of like spread around, right? People playing the game, seeing, you know, streams of it, things like that. However, right, we're going to need to get the namesake of the game further out. A lot of people are familiar with how the game is set up to like the modes being supported. So Surf, Bunny Hop, KZ, people are have either played them, tried to play them, or have heard of them, watch people that do it, or have just seen like memes or whatever of it online, right? So there's already a cognitive like relevance, I guess. I don't want to get too like technical because I don't know the technical terms, but like there's already relevance of our game and the game modes we support in people's minds because a lot of people have played CSGO, a lot of people have played TF2 and CSS. So for the most part, right, we have already that recognition. So if we say, hey, you remember surfing or have you ever surfed? Try out our game, right? We could go to Reddit. We could go to, you know, r/global offensive, stuff like that. Reach out through those means, the most free, right? The most word of mouth free kind of marketing that we can. And then the other side of that, right, is we could look at connections that we already have in this community. You have no idea how far-reaching this really niche community can get. It's awesome. Like, for example, I believe we had a Funky, the creator, YouTube content creator, shout us out in one of their videos because they've heard from Tip of the Hats about our game, right? Like, that's amazing, right? So like taking advantage, no, sorry, that's the wrong word. Not taking advantage. That sounds so dirty. Like exploring the existing connections in the community that we already have. poor Kurt. We're gonna abuse him for all the money we can. No, but for example, Kurt has been very truck on Twitch. I don't know if he's in chat or if he's popped in. Kurt has been very helpful for getting the game just in the earshot of people that are much bigger than, you know, normal content creators for this game. So yeah, I I think getting it in the hands of people that are familiar with the modes will be the best way to kind of organically grow the game's brand and content. Hey, I was lurking. Get called out, nerd. Just kidding. How you doing, Kurt? But yeah, hopefully I wasn't like offensive in that. I don't want to take advantage of you. If you don't want to help us out for like spreading the game's word or anything, that's okay. I was just saying that if you know some people that would be interested in it when it comes out, giving them a shout or something, like letting them know, like, and that applies really to everybody, right? Like to not just Kurt, but I use Kurt as an example because he does have connections with the TF2 community that would like jumping, like it's, tip of the hats and stuff, like being featured. Okay, hold on. Sorry, let me not get ahead of myself. So then the streaming aspect, right? So there's definitely streamers like Summit, like Shroud that have played, right? Leafy is here. No, there's people that have played these modes, right? That we could. Technically, I don't know what their like submission process is. If you have to donate to them, that's kind of why I added that stipulation on our funding. Is like if we have to donate $200 for him to know about our game, we could do that. Why not take a shot? It is free to play. The worst that can happen is they just waste the time downloading and playing the game and not liking it. But I know a dude named Drake that would love it. No, that's a good point. So ideally, right, reaching out and getting some sort of organic. I don't like paid advertisements for games. I think that there's already, like, when you pay for an advertisement of a game, like to a streamer or something, there's already the cognitive bias of like, crap, like they gave me the X amount of money, should I be honest or something, right? Like I want the honest gameplay. I want like their genuine reactions when they play the game. So that's the thing with like reaching out to kind of like Summit kind of people. It's like, hopefully we have people in the community that can just drop a link towards his way and let him see it. But if not, we could look at a more direct approach of like, paying, if he needs $1,000 to check out the game, we'll do that. It's, if anything, right, it's just to get more eyes on the game. We'll definitely stipulate that if we ever pay anybody to like check out the game, they can be as honest as they want about it. Like I want that. I want that honesty, but obviously paying for the game gives some cognitive bias on how they, how honest they might be. And then lastly, GDQ. I'm a speedrunner, right? I went to two GDQs. I went to AGDQ 2015 and SGDQ 2014. They're fun. They're really fun events, focused on speedrunning, but very fun. And so what we could do, right, is at 1.0, we could, so end of the year, right? So then it wouldn't make it into AGDQ, which is like January. So if we actually hit end of the year, so most likely SGDQ next year, we could put 1.0 in and have, if it's virtual, this is even easier, have people like show off game modes. So like we could have, like ideally we'll have the map playlist feature in. You could just start a gauntlet run or, something like all tier 1 through 3 or something, right? And show off the game. And it's speedrunning, right? It's the entire game is speedrunning, but it would show off what we currently have and like ideally put it in front of potentially 100,000 people, right? For free, effectively, right? You have to go to the event. But yeah, so that would be an avenue. And then with 2.0, with the campaign, we could have the the campaign speedrun mode, which it will have a speedrun mode, be speedrun at a GDQ. And like, we could have a developer call where I'm on the call or on the couch and then on the call. I don't know. We could have some fun with like GDQ related events, like speedrunning, showing off the game and what it offers. And that extends down too, because there's lesser known, there's like less popular events for speedrunning that could also accept this game, right? So just word of mouth through as many free things as possible before we look at monetizing marketing. But again, I don't think we will have a problem getting word of the game out. It is a free-to-play game, right? The worst thing that happens for people trying the game is they just waste their time and a little bit of bandwidth downloading. That's it, right? Like, so worst case, they're like, fuck it, I'm going back to TF2 or, something like that. Or like, that's the worst that can happen. Like, it just, they tried it out, they gave it a fair shot. Maybe they didn't like it, and that's okay. But at the end, they tried it out, and that's what I want to see. because hopefully that leads to other people seeing them play it and like, oh, what's this? And then it's free to play. You know, you can join them. You can go and like play with them. And I think just being the combination of that cognitive like relevance, back of the mind, kind of like, oh yeah, I know these modes, combined with free to play, like, oh, I can invite and play with my friends. I think that'll be a 1-2 punch for a lot of the word of mouth growth that we can see. Does anybody have any input on that?
I think campaign is sort of going to market itself, or obviously we'll put effort into it, but like there's so much about campaign that I think, especially for people that aren't super familiar with any of these game modes that still want to learn it, campaign is hopefully going to be a really good avenue to actually learn and get good at stuff and get good at each respective mode in a way that is accessible and enjoyable. And I think, yeah, as a speedrunning thing, campaign is going to be just great for speedrunning. Like, I don't think we should... It's obviously hard to predict with speedrunning because it tends to be quite a sort of organic process where you have no idea, like, if a game's going to be good for speedrunning or not on launch most of the time.
Yeah.
But, like, we know that, you know, campaign's not going to have like a bunch of really stupid gimmicks or like RNG or something that's going to make it like a horrible game to run. And in terms of like, yeah, we don't know what categories are going to develop, stuff like that. But yeah, the prospect of say seeing it at GDQ seems really pretty plausible.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it should be, but pre 1.0, like, sorry, pre 2.0. I don't know. I guess I've got sort of less input on that, but yeah, campaign just seems like it's just going to be very, very fun to launch and release, and I think it'll be no problem getting people in to play it.
Yeah.
And I'd be surprised if we have to like go paying a bunch of people, or you know, because yeah, it's free and it's something that should be fun and accessible.
Yeah.
And not full of horrible gimmicks that put speedrunners off. So.
Yeah. Yeah, really good input there. Yeah. Thank you, Firestabber, for this question too. Not a lot of people talk about marketing a game, right? So thank you for letting us explain. All right, next question.
Next we have Amp, who is curious about a clan system they've heard about and would like to know how will a system like this work and what benefits, if any, will there be for joining a clan? Will there be any kind of clan tournaments?
Oh boy. Okay. I could go for like over 10 minutes talking about clans, so I'll try to keep it short because, yeah, I want to kind of rein ourselves in, or rein myself in at least about it. So yes, one of the community-related features that I'm really excited about post 1.0 is a clan feature. The idea in place that I currently have, and these are just spitballing ideas, they're not concrete, we can iterate upon them, we'll take more community input on these in the future. But the idea is that you can create a clan through our website and make them either invite-only or public, right? Anybody can join. And the way that it'll work, right, is clans are more or less going to just be a giant stat pool. It's kind of collecting everybody in the clan's like stats, what maps they're playing, completing. You know, you can organize, you could do the community side of things like organizing events, you know, through it, like playing maps together as a clan and stuff like that. But one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is like with that kind of stat collection, right? We could take like just a general look at like two clans in particular, right? Two almost equally sized clans ish, and look at the maps that they're playing versus the maps like against each other. And we could find maps where maybe a specific clan has a hold on a map, like a lot of their members play the map, but maybe this other clan doesn't really play it. And it could go cross game mode as well. So maybe like a conch clan like versus like a bunny hop clan on a rocket jump map or something. The idea here that we could have this like thing called a clan war. And like the idea for that is like you would declare a clan war, right, against another clan. And it could either be one map or like a series of maps, like a couple of, you know, like multiple maps. And during like a week-long period, it would just be like an all-out battle to see who gets the most, like the highest rank points, like the highest PBs and stuff. And like it would just be like we could have it in the game. You get like an announcement. You would have this constant like back and forth. Like you could have people like celebrating it. Like it could get really big to where you have like people broadcasting the clan war or something, like with like commentating and like seeing like how the different players are doing. Because it could tie directly in with our dedicated server stuff, to where, right, like you would join a clan's like server, you could like invade, you know, their lobby or something. Like we could do some really, really fun community building stuff, or more competitive side of community building stuff. Here, and it would be, you know, oh man, like there's so many different ideas that you could do with like the different game modes, for example, targeting a game mode out of their comfort zone to make like, so primarily conquerors, and primarily I was getting the idea b-hoppers and conquerors going in rocket jump, or, you know, like something that's like complete, or a-hop or something, right, completely different, and just see how they do, and like see how dedicated the like people in the clan are to like learning and like improving on the mode. So there's there's so many like cool things like that, and then like at the end of it we could like have like an announcement like declaring the winner like game wide or something, and like that would bring people into the idea of clan wars. And then, you know, like the lesser I guess announced version of that could be clan tournaments, which is mentioned in the question. You could host a tournament, same exact thing, except it just doesn't involve another clan. You would pick maps and be like, hey guys, you know, for this week we have these maps as our tournament, you know, compete to, you know, be the best, you know, player out of all. I'll answer the question. I believe there's a question about 1v1s in racing. We'll get to that in a bit, but that would be kind of how you could do that. You could also look at just best overall time in a time period. So there's a lot of stuff like that we are really, really looking forward to. You could have yeah, please play Conk. You could have clan specific cosmetics. You can have clan specific cosmetics, and like, so bigger clans could have like their own banners and stuff, or like an in-game like banner on like the player or something. Like we could get like really cool with like the in-game cosmetics for clans in particular, and like when you're in a clan you could represent the clan as much as possible, and like in your replays and stuff and on your profile. So like we can have clan tags, we can have badges, like for clans that are winning the wars, or the, you know, whatever, we could have badges on your profile for that. There's a lot of really awesome ideas. If any of this sounds exciting to you, please stick around in our Discord, because we will be taking outside input and testing the shit out of this post 1.0. But like, yeah, it is one of our, like, community building stuff like this is still really important. Despite the game being a single player focused game, it is still really important for us to build community, and kind of, so like existing clans can come over, right? Like existing, you know, servers, clans can come over and have this representation in the game. Just by default, like stuff like this is just like this is what we want in the game, as opposed to just the single player aspect with a little bit of multiplayer. We want there to be the overarching community side of things, because again, it's different game modes, it's different communities, and it's all in one platform. So it needs to kind of be this overarching community, as opposed to a specific server, one aspect of the game being the community. And like that's okay, we could offer that, but like there's so much room for expansion. We could do game, like it could take time. It could be like we could look at like stats versus other clans, where like we look at holdings, right? So I mentioned before, like how many members of your clan have good times on a map, and we could just like make it a challenge or like a goal of a clan to like chip away at somebody's another clan's holding on a map or mode. You know, so there's like, we could prioritize like trying to bring the community interaction there, and then I guess we'll eventually get to like 1v1s and racing. That's a separate question, but yeah, okay. Hopefully I didn't spend too long on it, but thank you, Amp, for asking about clans. We'll move on to the next one, because there's probably going to be a lot of overlap with some of these other questions too.
So our next question is by Aart, who is asking, how will the dedicated servers work, and will it be like other games where you have to download and run server software?
Yeah.
As well as will sourcemod and other third-party plugins be supported?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have like very similar functionality to dedicated servers. So we'll be using like Steam's lobby system with like peer-to-peer connection. Well, we will have things like public roaming lobbies, so lobbies that are tied to a specific map, which are kind of, that's like how traditional dedicated servers work. And also the ability for communities to have their own lobbies and like hook into stuff like the player model. You could, have a community specific player model or something like that, and with other hooks too. Yeah, but they're not really dedicated servers. Maybe God can go more into detail about that. But
yeah, absolutely.
We are a single player game. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, we're not going to be able to support sourcemod and third-party timers. I don't know if maybe timers was the wrong word. Maybe it was point system or something. So yeah, we have a timer in the game. Hopefully you use it. But yeah, the dedicated servers are more or less going to be big lobbies with map lists. So it'll have the map rotation functionality. But it is more of a community building sort of thing. Like you host a lobby if you want to play with friends, like kind of just one off. But you host a dedicated like lobby server sort of thing if you want to play with a community. So clans can host them. The really nice thing about the way that our networking works, I guess I didn't really get into this, and I don't know if we have a question about this. The way that our networking works is it's a layer on top of the game. So the way that traditional games work, I sort of talked about this earlier, way earlier, with one of the first questions. Traditional games require a game server to play one specific map at one time. For our game, we allow you to play whatever you want, whenever you want. So obviously hosting dedicated servers for every single map of every single game mode would be a little expensive and not really worth it. So for the most part, right, we don't want to go that route. Instead, what we can do is have networking be a layer above the game that only networks the other players in your map if you're on the same map, right? Other than that, chat could, voice chat, text chat, having people in your lobby joining other players, testing maps together, being able to download maps in progress right now, or like in work in progress maps and stuff. That can be done as like an overarching layer. And so we can still have zero ping gameplay, right? And allow you to play with other people. So like your game will not stutter. It won't be it won't be ping dependent. It will be, you can span different maps. You can cross map chat and stuff. That's like, I think a really awesome benefit. There is the downside, and I think that touches in, on the next couple of questions about modes that require other players. So that's the thing, right? The first thing is it's ping dependent gameplay. It goes against basically what the rest of the game stands for. For some modes like combat surf, it's not even speedrunning. It's just combat. Go play CSGO. No, but that's like the kind of cutoff, right? The moment that you have a game mode that depends on other people, but nobody to play it with, is the moment that game mode dies. Even if you have matchmaking, right? Which I don't know, like a speedrunning mode where you have to matchmake with somebody in order to get good times? Like, how does that work? So the moment you add a mode that relies on other people or other players and there's nobody to play it, it dies. It's dead content, right? It can be revived. People can come back and play it at any time, but that's development effort. That's, maintenance of maps, it's bandwidth for maps, that for a mode that would be effectively dead if nobody played it. For surf, bunny hop, rocket jump, who cares if nobody plays it? It'll be played at its own thing, but you don't rely on somebody being in your lobby to play rocket jump, right? So for the most part, our networking is never really going to impact other players in your game. You'll still see conks and, rockets and stickies from other players. We'll have that interaction because we want that, but it doesn't have to be synchronized. And that's the really nice thing, right? Is we don't have to synchronize your game state. So there's no ping, right? What is conk? I believe somebody has linked it. If somebody can link resources. Conk is a Team Fortress Classic game mode. It's basically using grenades in order to propel yourself. But
please play Conk.
It's the explosion of a grenade to propel yourself. Sorry, I should clarify, because there's trikz, which is using another player throwing a grenade, which requires synchronization and therefore ping. And again, like the thing with synchronizing game state is you can fully predict the game, right? You can have 200 ping feel like 40 or whatever, right? But it's still ping, and it still relies on other players playing your game. So like there's those two aspects it's just not really that appealing. And to completely overhaul the game and make it ping dependent for specific aspects, it's just not worth it. So yeah, if there's trikz games or whatever, go and play those, play it in CSS. Like for the most part, we're not really looking to support trikz, combat surf, hide and seek, anything that relies on other players to play. However, I'll get to that in the next question, but the dedicated like lobby stuff, yeah, it's just going to be like an executable, right? It's just like a normal server. It'll have we could have a GUI version, we could have a command line version, Linux version. You just host it. It would use Steam to do it, so you would need the Steamworks or Steam runtime or Steam installed on the server, just like a SRC DS executable. So, but it won't be simulating the game fully. It will not be synchronizing state. So that hopefully is going to be tying into the next question that we have here, which, yeah, we'll go ahead and move over to. We aren't going to support sourcemod. We might have a scripting layer in the game that allows, like levels of scripting for like mappers and stuff. But again, the game is all about consistency. So we don't want to export like movement related scripting to mappers because we don't want mappers to be reinventing the wheel or using inconsistent logic and I don't want to have to review people's code to add maps to the game. But we will still allow people to like touch like cosmetics related stuff. So like firing off like particle, improving entity IO maybe for like, if people get a PB, firing off some effect in the map or something. So we will have that. What was that?
One small little thing is we do have mappers can have ghost triggers. So if you do want, mappers can have some little triggers that will activate based on other people in your lobby. Obviously that we're not going to allow maps that do affect gameplay like that. So we can't, you could, but mappers still can do some sort of fun little stuff with lobbies, and I'm sure that is quite likely to sort of result in some sort of community stuff. I don't know.
It'd be probably like visuals mostly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, fireworks in the map. I don't know.
Yeah. It's the same with like how paint works and stuff now.
Yeah.
Also,
and
winding down on the lobby question, did we want to go over kind of the timeline? Because right now we do have public lobbies listed, but we don't have any roaming lobbies yet. I believe is that 013.0 or?
Yes. Yep. 013.0. It could probably come sooner. We could probably bump it up a little sooner, but right now we don't have a lot of players, right? It's like just key players. So when 013.0 to the 1.0 push is going to be a large key drop, because obviously the next update, the game's free. So it doesn't matter how many keys that we give away. So we'll have like mass testing of stuff like lobbies and systems like that. So we might bump it back to there. But it will be pre 1.0. So it'll be a community feature that's in the game at 1.0.
Yeah, and any dedicated server stuff would be further down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then clans quite a long way after that. Probably.
Yeah, 1.2, 1.3, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thank you, Arc, and I think Amp. Thank you. Oh yeah, thank you, Arc, for that question. We'll move on to the next question here. Still in the dedicated server realm.
Yeah, Art or Acer is asking if there are dedicated servers, what reasons are there not to have multiplayer game modes like trikz and combat surf, along with a server-sided anti-cheat?
Yeah, so I think most of it has been covered, but something I wanted to say also was like multi-person trick jumps. You'll see a lot in the jump community. We won't be able to do that mainly, because that requires a synchronized server. But so usually the kind of thing with that is if it requires multiple people to have like a reliable like interaction between them, we won't be able to do that. So things like paint, player positions, they arrive in kind of like a UDP style, so we don't really care if we like lose a packet or something, because it doesn't affect you. But yeah.
Yeah, we network stuff as we get it, and you know it doesn't matter if it takes time. For like that's why there's no ping, right? So because it's not synchronized, right? It's just as you get it. For most people, that's it's still pretty reliable. Like you can have a pretty reliable connection. We use the Steam network backbone, so it can be reliable. But it's still networked, and there's going to be ping. There's inherent ping, but it doesn't affect your gameplay because again we don't have any game modes that rely on that. So hopefully that answers why multiplayer game modes like Trikz, Combat Surf, etc. aren't supported. Server-sided anti-cheat, we would never ever trust any community server with anti-cheat ever. Ever. We are going to have server-sided anti-cheat, but it's not going to be community servers. A multiplayer game server is not the only way to do anti-cheat. I will also say that. It is not the only way to do anti-cheat. We will have it does not require the game state to be synchronized in order for you to be able to play your game and be verified or validated, right? But thank you, Acer, for tagging on. It was tagged on to the last question by Ark. Yeah, so it is a disappointment, and I know there's a lot of people that would like to see Trikz support, but it goes against the game's core philosophy of how it's just designed and going to be set up. So to like overhaul that like philosophy to like support it just for these specific things it's not worth it. So we're gonna instead just focus on the single player side of things. You can still play with other players. You can still interact with other players. One of the things we could do is if you're on a map that has the Trikz like designator, the prefix, we could make grenades collide with ghosts. So you can still play Trikz maps in our game, but there won't be any maps on the leaderboards or any, on the official map selector. And yeah, in Combat Surf, you'd have to compete with CSGO. Other than maybe ramp fixes, there's not much that we would offer, and it's not speedrun related. Hide and seek, kind of same thing. It's just, using movement to get away from each other, but not really speedrun related, kind of just like a, fun, like off mode. And then Death Run, for example, that, relies synchronized game state, so you can do the traps. That's more of a Gary's mod mode anyway. It's not really speedrunning. So yeah, hopefully that answers that. Let's definitely move on to the next question. A lot of people want Trikz. So yeah.
Yeah, our next question is by username who's asking, will you plan to add Trikz at some point?
So yeah, hopefully that's answered a couple of times now. No, it's not on the roadmap at all. The technical implementation of it goes against the way that the game's being designed in the first place. So thank you for that question, though, username.
Just in case people are confused, triksurf, yes, so, and maybe other trick-based game modes, in that we have the trick UI stuff being worked on that's coming along really well. So that's not tricks as in synchronized player state, you shoot rockets at your friend.
No, grenades, yeah, you throw flashbangs in.
We've kind of formatted triksurf to be kind of generalized so that it can be applied to other game modes as well, I think.
Yeah.
So
trick
in the future,
yeah. Trick a hop.
Trick hop, yeah. Oh god, Trahop. It's Trazox's. No. Yeah, that is a very good distinction to make. I apologize about not making that distinction. Trikz with a Z is throwing a grenade at a partner's foot to boost them through the map. It requires somebody else to synchronize a grenade, though. Triksurf in chat is basically taking existing Combat Surf maps and putting triggers all around the map and then creating routes to surf through like those triggers. So that's a completely different game mode. We are absolutely supporting that. Triksurf doesn't really have a dedicated platform. It's kind of trying to come back and getting some platform support. I think KSF is adding something, but we absolutely will be supporting Triksurf. But here's the distinction, right? The mode, the idea of having abstract triggers all around the map, zones, right, can extend to any game mode. So we might tongue-in-cheek say, yeah, we're going to support Trikz, Trikks, and have a mode that is trick jump, trick surf, trick hop, like A hop, trick, B hop, having, basically getting more value out of either maps that we can't support, like combat surf maps, or maps that already exist and have some interesting like openness to them. Like for example, AHOP Coast, which is really open, having trick AHOP on that map where like you start maybe all the way on like a certain stage, then go all the way back to like a different one. Like you can have more replayability that way, and that would be its own mode and like its own like leaderboard system and all of that. So that is going to be added and fleshed out, and it's abstract enough to be able to support different game modes. I'm really excited for that. The overarching mode of that would be tricks. It would be the label tricks, but it's trick like underscore. It's like trick hop, trick jump, like stuff like that. So it might just be an overarching mode called tricks, and that's where it's going to probably get a little confusing for some people. So hopefully not too confusing though, because yeah, it's spelled different. The S versus the Z. Anyway, but yeah, so we will move on to the next question here by Starly again.
You were actually hinting at this question earlier. Starly's asking, will there be any sort of multiplayer game mode such as racing, like 1v1s or combat surf?
Yes, no. Yes to racing and 1v1. So the system that we're gonna have in place, you've probably already heard from Kurt. Surf's Up is a surf tournament where the idea is you get a set time. It's 1v1, set time. And I guess it's just 1v1, right, as a tournament. So it is 2 players going head to head to get the best time on a map. We can absolutely do that because all you do, right, is synchronize the start, which is like just telling our server, hey, like at this specific time, we're going to start like a race or 1v1. And then giving an allotted time to do and submit a run that gets, validated and everything, that then can come back to the client. And then the client could be like, hey, check out this run ID that I just did, right? And then the other clients can look at our server and be like, oh yeah, hey, wow, they just got this time. And then mark it. So we can do 1v1s. We can do racing that way too. Racing might not be as played as 1v1. I think 1v1 in general is going to be a much more interesting mode to spectate and play, mostly because the moment you fail in a race is like game over, right? Like if you're versing somebody, unless you're playing a really difficult long map, it's, like the moment you fail, you lose the race. And it's like, we could have it and we will support it. I'm not against like supporting it. I think 1v1s are more interesting and will lead to things like Surf's Up, like these giant tournaments where it's 1v1 bracket style all the way to who's the best surfer or whoever, and it's whatever game mode, right? It could be whatever game mode. It's a system that could be, it's not per server, it's per the game and the desired maps, and it could go across game modes too. Like the system would be like you would just pick maps and the maps have the game mode tied to them, so it doesn't have to be Surf's Up, it could be Momentum's Up. Like we could have like momentum wide tournaments like that where we have like who's the best overall like game mode player, right? And that's really exciting. That's why cosmetic XP is going across every game mode. Rank XP will be per game mode. We'll have specific stuff like that. But yeah. So no to combat surf, that's already been answered, but yes to racing, 1v1s, allowing in-game tournament scheduling, stuff like that, or through our website, most likely through our website first. In-game UI should really be more game focused as opposed to like organizational, like, admin stuff. But yeah, so thank you, Starly, for that question as well, because that is, oh yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, so for the jumpers, beginnings, which we don't get too often, like once a year, if that. We could use this racing system as well for that. It acts a little bit differently, because for beginnings, usually you have mappers making a map, it comes out, and then once it's released, you have a week to see who gets the best time, and then someone wins. So it might change a little bit how beginnings is run, but
we might have those by default even.
Yeah.
Like we might just have when maps are released, we have a tournament for a week and just see who gets the best, or the weekend. We could, you know, time it to how players want it to go. It could just be, yeah, the first week after a map is actually officially added.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, so beginnings can happen every time.
Yeah, tie the beginnings maps together or something to get shared totals, and then that's beginnings.
There you go. Yep. But yeah, thank you, Starly. All right, on to the next one.
Our next question, Art is asking, initially the plan was to only add source-based game modes. With the addition of defrag, has the mindset changed?
Defrag and conk, probably, right? So here's the thing, right? When the project started, it was purely a CSS mod. That's why we're called Momentum Mod, by the way. We were basically like a CSS mod, going to be Surf, Bunny Hop, and KZ, maybe post 1.0 or like post public release. And then, yeah, we'll figure out Jump in the future, whatever, right? But that changed when Beetle reached out to the Jump community. I was like, hey, there's this platform. Are you guys interested in stuff like this? And then fucking Legends came over and implemented the goddamn modes. And then so it started to expand. And at that point, when that happened, the mindset changed. It went from, yeah, okay, maybe these are CSS modes to, oh, this can be source in general, because there's AHOP, there's stuff in Half-Life 2, and we get that for free. And then, you know, like there's trikz, like different modes spinning off of these modes. But then we started to look at like what is fun to like what's speedrunning and fun. So like one of the modes that was also brought up a lot in my chat when I was working on the game and streaming it, which sorry, yeah, I can't do that anymore for obvious reasons. The thing that was brought up is conk, and I was like, what the fuck is conk? And so I looked it up, and it was this mode that was speedrun related and using grenade boosting. So it was another explosive based mode, and it's like it doesn't really have a platform other than TFC, and TFC is like or Fortress Forever, right? Which is like its own kind of like it's again embedded in these games, and you know it doesn't really have a dedicated platform. So why not, you know, make it its own platform? So then that was the first like, okay, that's not necessarily source, but it is source related because it's gold source movement, and it's, you know, it's movement in speedrunning. And then we started to look at, well, the grandfather mode, defrag, right? Does that have a dedicated platform? Because that, you know, a lot of people love defrag, but don't want to play it on a 20-year-old engine at this point, right? Like, or even older, it's like 1996, right? 25-year-old engine at this point. Jeez, it's fucking quarter century years old engine. So, you know, putting it on a 20-year-old engine. Putting it on a 20-year-old engine might be, no. But having the idea is that there's no dedicated like platform, right, for it. It's still embedded. It's kind of, I wouldn't say dead, but it doesn't have the reach that it probably could have nowadays on a platform like this. Now defrag is very alive and well. There's Quake, Quake is open source, right? So there's all types of different games and mods and stuff that have defrag. There's even dedicated defrag games. But from what we asked from the defrag community is that a lot of people are still itching to have something like Momentum Mod for defrag. Even the dedicated defrag games tend to not really support the community side of things. Maybe they were defrag, but like it was a specific map pack or something, right, where it's not really made for expansion, or the devs are not really dedicated to it. So that's kind of what opened the mode. And again, defrag is the grandfather mode. It is what came first, right? Like everything's based on idtech. Gold source came from idtech. Gabe Newell and I forget the other guy. They went to Carmack and were like, hey, can we use your engine? And gold source happened, and then source happened, and now source 2. But you know, so the grandfather mode defrag on that engine is kind of more of a nod of respect, kind of bringing in this mode that kind of started it all. Obviously, it plays differently. It's like, I consider it like the opposite of AHOP, right? Because like AHOP's all backwards. Defrag is very forwards. Like you don't do a lot of side to side strafing. You're going forwards and very like angling how you jump and strafe through the map using forward hopping. It's really cool. It's really unique. That was the other thing. It's a unique game mode. That's really what we're bringing in. So it's like, you know, triksurf, the exception for triksurf is it doesn't really have a platform anymore, and it is unique gameplay. It's still speedrunning related, defrag speedrunning related. It kind of started first person, and maybe we could trace back the fun movement to defrag or that era of movement. So absolutely, it was initially it was just source based, like okay, we'll add jump, okay, we could add a hop, but as we just started to expand the mindset to okay, we can actually start to include some retro style modes, the conk and defrag. We can expand over to Titanfall 2, the most modern version of Source 1. Titanfall 2 is, fun fact by the way, Titanfall 2 runs on a modified version of the Source engine. That's why we're adding parkour, right? And having a dedicated, because Titanfall 2, the only speedrunning you can do is the full game speedrun, right? There's not dedicated maps and not dedicated, there's no map editor for Titanfall 2. Well, actually, asterisk, there is, but it's like its own mod. You have to kind of set it. It's not officially supported, I should say. So it doesn't even officially exist in any multiplayer capacity of custom content and stuff, right? So it only exists in single player. And then, Apex has a bit of the movement, but they kind of scuffed it. I don't think you have wall running in that game. So they got rid of that. But yeah, I mean, parkour, wall running, slide hopping, grapple hooking, stuff like that. It's just going to be, this game is shaping up to be just a lot of really fun source-based ish movement, right? And that is, it's just a giant love letter to the movement modes that we're adding. So
can I
go ahead.
One thing to point out really quick is sort of part of the reason that we have been able to expand to so many game modes has been that there's just been so many great contributions from community people sort of outside the base team of. So obviously Jump started with a bunch of people, so like
Ilpro,
Larry and Hat Kid, I think are the three main ones. I'm sorry if I'm missing anyone.
Yep.
And then Conk was
Squeak. Fortress Forever is fully open source, and we got permission from Squeak, the main lead developer, to be able to use Conk stuff. So that alone has helped with adding it.
And then parkour, right? You have some of the code from that originally came from, I forget the name of it.
Half-Life 2 mobility mod from Rob
exactly.
on ModDB. Somebody did it and then open sourced their code for it. It's like perfect, and we got permission to use it.
And it's a really solid base, it seems, right? But also now, even though we have now gone closed source, the work Lumina has been doing recently, and part of the reason that we are talking about defrag more at the moment is literally because Lumina, who's like an external QA who's been around for a while and has always been really cool, but has now started doing defrag for us and has done a ton of work on it in the last sort of week or so, which has been crazy. So like defrag is getting more attention now. It's sort of I think it's still a bit of an open question as to whether defrag potentially gets into 1.0 or we hold back. But if we've not been said already, so currently the plan is the main 7 modes will be bunny hop, surf, rocket jump, sticky jump, a hop. Those 5 are all currently in. Then we'll also be getting conk and trick stuff in, partly because there aren't particularly good active communities for those at all at the moment, so we want to give them a space for it, but also because they're pretty close to being done. And then the 3 that were sort of being planned for post 1.0 are climb,
parkour,
and defrag. And defrag now I think is a bit more, if Lumina is doing so much work, then maybe obviously that needs to get merged into engine and stuff by the
which we'll handle, but it's a very helpful head start on that, and probably copy paste most of it.
And even with Climb, for instance, like Game Chaos recently has made this whole amazing sourcemod plugin for testing different climb settings, which is going to be a really useful way of getting climb right and implemented in a way that makes
momentum feel unique.
It was that Game Chaos, I think it's called.
Game Chaos.
Game Chaos, I think Zero as well. I'm probably not getting everyone's names right, but there's been so many contributions as like kick-started work on game mode stuff. I should say some of AHOP actually was me and Wazer. The first thing I actually did for Momentum was AHOP, and I did originally get AHOP done, or sort of done, and then Gok went and looked at mine and Wazer's code and was like, fuck it, and then I think did AHOP properly in like an evening.
It helps having the code. The default game movement class has AHOP movement in it. So it was just like calling the right things for AHOP. And so, now we have AHOP. And it was like a weekend, basically, adding it. Same with triksurf. The UI and trick system, I did on vacation. I think I was bored on vacation and just did it in a weekend. So again, like the focus is more on the core systems than game modes, and that's why like those parkour, climb, and defrag are more of later modes, because it's not only do we need post 1.0 content, but also it takes time to implement. So it would be taking time away from doing stuff like the zone refactor that we have to do and stuff. So very good points there about the contribution from the outside has really helped with expanding our scope, because we can now, right? If there's somebody that's like, here's sticky jump, I was like, oh, okay, I'll take it. Here's a rocket jump. Oh, okay. Here's
we just need someone to go and do trimping for us.
Oh God, we'll see if trimping will be a mode or added in any way.
500
Jarate
like
jumping.
Sticky jumping, like that's initially like why I got into developing for the game, is I saw a sticky jump, and that's the game mode I love from TF2, and it's like, well, this is just way better than TF2. I better actually try to do something for this, and then
hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's always
there's
nice.
been a lot of development that just came on after Jump came on to the team.
Generation
Also
3, I'm telling you.
yeah, Hona.
We sort of all have our different generations.
Ninja was B-hop.
I'm of the A-hop generation.
Yeah.
I came on the A-hop.
A-hop, baby.
Yeah, people sometimes joke about how keeping to add new game modes kind of increases the scope, but it's also brought in more development time.
More developers, more, like focus on what the game actually is. Because again, the game used to just be, we are a CSS mod. And like that was kind of how it was being marketed or whatever, right? And now it is, we are a platform for source-based movement. Like that's how it shifted, is like all of these modes, like, so I guess gold source and defrag asterisk movement as well, or Quake movement. But yeah, like it's just awesome. It's awesome to see it, and that's why I was awesome. Like I was amazed with that support, but I'm really happy that we went open source for that, because yeah. And again, if we could have our way, we would have Momentum be open source. But obviously, the code that we have is probably more beneficial for Valve to not have it be open. But yeah, so we have to go close source. So unfortunate, but yeah. So that's how that mindset
down
changed.
the whole project. Like,
Yeah, we could get sued.
One slip up, right? Get sued and shut down the whole project. So.
Yeah. So all these years of work. Momentum's been a thing since 2014. An idea of mine, and like started to work on it in 2014. I had no idea what C++ was back then, really. And now I'm very comfortable with Source. Yeah, I know.
Like when
I went to school.
I didn't really know anything, and I mean that's kind of a good point. Like there are stuff that like our website, maybe our docs page when we put issues for that. Like there are ways to contribute to the stuff we do have open source, and you can do that. Like it's not like maybe there's a barrier to entry you haven't done it before, but
yeah,
people are very helpful, and I'll try to answer all your questions.
Yeah, so we'll move on, but thank you, Art, for that question, because it's a good point. It's our scope has changed, but for the better. I think immensely for the better. I think looking back in Momentum's development, if I could redo knowing what I know now, right? I think the game would probably also be out at this point, but also, the scope would be probably around the same. I don't know. But I'm glad that the scope expanded to the way, or the scope that it did. So thank you. Moving on.
Our next question is, Batman gathers that the task-related features will be more of a concern after the 1.0 release, but are the leaderboards planned for the task game modes? And if so, do you have any thoughts on whether third-party tools will be allowed and supported in any capacity?
Yeah, so definitely, we're definitely planning task leaderboards.
Mm-hmm.
Third-party support, we're not too sure about, because definitely if there is some third-party tool that helps tasking, ideally we would want that in the game.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure too much about
So I've actually reached out to Batman. I don't know if he's still in chat. He was in chat earlier. He raided. It was awesome. So I've already reached out to Batman in DMs. Yes, leaderboards are absolutely planned. In fact, I reached out to him after he asked this question. So sorry, is kind of making him seem like he's setting up his own question or something. But yeah, the leaderboards are absolutely planned. I was discussing with him, and this is something that we'll discuss more in the future of how the game or how the leaderboards will work. Because it could be purely competition, where we have like you do a task and submit the task, and it's just the replay, right? Like a normal mode, but it would be flagged and obviously like excluded from anticheat because it uses tasks. But the idea there being that it would just be purely competitive and have like rankings and stuff. But then there's also a side of the leaderboards that could be more collaborative as well. So we could actually have an opt-in feature where when you do a task, you can attach the input file or like what the task uses to like do the inputs to, if it's not already in the replay, we could do that to the leaderboard submission. And then if people see the run and want to improve upon it, they have an option. It'll be like download run and then download like input and like start run or like start a run based on this input. And then you could like make a run off of this input file. And then when you submit it and if it beats it or something, you would have your name and their name like as a collaborative, like, hey, we worked technically together on this task. And I think that would be like a really cool way to promote having like an optimized task like route. However, again, there is the concern of like, okay, the competition side of things, right? Like, so that is a really good way to get to the point where there is just pure optimized route for a map. But I don't know. It is something that we wanna ask Batman and maybe related people that are interested in doing tasks, how they want the leaderboards to function for it. Because we could do, I mean, obviously by default you'll get the competitive one, but do we want that optional like opt-in, feature of like, appending and collaborating with people on the leaderboard? So third-party tools, yep, Bray covered it. Not going to be allowed. We're going to work with people that have written task tools. We want, including Batman, we want those tools in the game. I think having, everything in game demotivates people going to sketchy websites for task tools or something like that for the potential of hacking or whatever, and then getting picked up accidentally from anti-cheat and any fiascos there. So in-game task tools, by the way, will also be part kind of the anti-cheat effort of movement recorders, right? So we have a dedicated mode that you can movement record on and submit and get rank XP, right? Or rank points for, right? Like that should motivate people to at least try it, right? Try out the tools. Hopefully they're better than tools that you could find, right? Because it's from the community and every feature, no sketchy websites and just, free heroin. No. Yeah. So
cheating as well.
Yeah, it's part of the anti-cheat
leaderboard. Like if you want to cheat, you can go, cheat and get as high as you can.
Yeah. So hopefully that answers that. I believe I already answered sort of some of these questions in DMs with them, but yeah, absolutely. TAS is absolutely going to be supported, and we'd love to have your tools in place and officially supported in the game for any game mode, not just surf and bunny hop, right? Any game mode. So yeah. Yep, surfer task. Yep, Batman, Bam TNA in chat right now. Yeah. The one that gets all the records? I believe so, yeah. So yeah, good, great question. All right.
Our next question is pretty great too. From Exile asking, who would win 1 billion lions or every Pokemon?
Some Pokemons are literally gods, right?
This is, yeah. I think
Lions.
there's a clear winner here.
Giratina.
Wait, a billion?
Good luck.
1 billion is a lot. I will. 1 billion lions.
So
I mean, there's 7 billion humans.
An average
they climb on
lion.
top of each other like World War Z or something.
Oh god.
So lions weigh roughly like 150 kilograms. So that's 100 billion
Yeah, but like
of line.
The Earth is just going to be out of orbit.
Yeah.
you just get a Pidgey, and then like
How?
if just like a bird flies away and it just waits for like a month.
Rayquaza.
All the lions are just
like,
going to
how
eat
lives
each other.
Isn't there
How do
Pokemon
you?
that can just
How do
destroy
1
people?
billion lions live?
Yeah, like how do you get enough food to support?
How do you feed
I mean,
1 billion
poor
lions?
Meowth probably.
Feed the soldiers of the lion versus Pokemon war. Pokemon
I'm
are.
on the lion side, I think. I'm
I'm on the
biased.
line.
You're a fool.
I've seen Lion King. I know what they can do.
I've never seen it actually. It is Disney, right?
Yeah. Thank you for that question, Exile. It's good to break up some of the. Again, any question that you ask us in Q&A live, we'll answer. So keep that in mind.
We've had too many silly questions. It's good to have like a really serious one for once.
Yeah. Finally. All right. Next question.
Our next question is coming from Ark, who's asking, what happened to the sub-tick timer? It used to be a major feature, but all that's been mentioned of it has gone away.
Right. So Oedo, when I was implementing the initial leaderboard system, it was just easier to do ticks because it's a flat integer. Floating points are very fun when it comes to representing it across a Linux server, over the network, and yeah, like so. There's a lot of like fun imprecision that you can get with floats being your time. However, we do actually want to reinstate it. So right now the timer is tick based, which means 66, 100 tick or whatever. The game ticks at a specific rate, and then however many ticks you do to do your run, you divide by the tick rate to get your time, right? So it's like that's currently the way that we get the time, and it's very consistent because it moves the float calculation to client. So the subtick timer, for those that are unaware, we have in place it's technically just a theory on how you can improve improve an existing timer, right? So if you have the boundary of a zone, right? So this is the boundary of a zone, and if you have the player bounding box on one tick, right, is inside, and it it's counted inside the like start zone, for example. But then you have it like leave the start zone, right? So this is the edge of the player bounding box. They leave the next tick, right? All of this distance right here is technically time that shouldn't be or should be, depending on the zone, right, added to the run. So for the start zone, right, if the timer starts and you're right here, hey, we need to add this time to your timer, right? Versus start or exit zone, where when you get in, right, this time right here should be removed. So the idea is the subtick timer does a trace using the in-game tracing, right, like the engine trace, with your bounding box using your velocity. So we know your velocity, we do a trace to see how long the distance is, then we divide the distance by the velocity to get time, and then you just add that. The problem is that turns into like literal microseconds sometimes, like with 100 tick, right? How fast do you have to be going to where there's such a discrepancy, it's to be determined. But the main thing is that this timer, this technology was part of our timer for the longest time, and then once we added official leaderboard support, we just went back to ticks just for that. So we will be re-adding it. There's more of the question of whether or not it's useful for stage zones. So like just start and end, I can understand. Ones that don't necessarily teleport you into like an end zone, right? For maps that have the start zone at the very least, it will be, it'll be good. Fixed point numbers encoded as double precision flows. Yeah, we could use fixed point as well. We could kind of change the encoding, because that, again, this was back in 080. Like I was still like, how the fuck does API work? So a lot of it was like I wasn't really thinking about like how to. That was a joke. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Anyway, I was more or less thinking of just more about the ease of implementing, and then reintroducing. We still have the code. We can still do the subtick timer. It's just more or less going to be how to accurately represent it. So we might store the offset, the distance, because that's, usually like, I don't know. We have to make it worthwhile to store, if anything, into the replay. And then update our anti-cheat to also do the same calculation. hope that it's consistent, because that's another thing too, is like hopefully the tracing library is consistent regardless of where it's used. It is a major feature, and will definitely lead to less ties on the leaderboard, which is really, I guess, the benefit of it, because really, like, who cares if you're like a microsecond faster than somebody? Like, who cares? Like, that's a microsecond. That's so small in the scheme of things, right? Like, under a millisecond of time difference, like, seriously, like, do people really care? Like, if you're really, like, you're effectively the same run at that point. Maybe you do a different route, but at the same, like, at the same time, it's like, how much will people care? So it could be re-implemented. We could look at the leaderboards, yeah, and I mean, for shorter surf, for shorter gameplay, it makes sense, right? For stage grinders and stuff like that, it'll make sense to do that. Oh, and I guess technically, yeah, that is true. The precision it would otherwise be tick dependent, which means 0.015 every tick. So that in between that, right, the 0.014, 13, 12, like all the way down to 00, right? That difference can be calculated with this. So yeah, the main thing is, like, we just have to see where it's the most useful. If it's useful for starting zones, which includes stage times, right? Stage grinders, that'll be where it'll be, right? Start and end zones, and then only on maps that don't teleport you into the end zone. But yeah, microseconds, yeah, it doesn't mean anything. So if our subtick timer is only getting that precision, it's not worth it to implement. It doesn't need to be implemented. We just use ticks. So
just count, lol.
Yeah, just count how long it takes. Anyway, but yeah, really good question, Aart. Because yeah, it used to be, we have a blog post about it and everything on our old Tumblr theme and stuff. I think it was written up by Tuxie, who's no longer even involved, I think, in the source community.
Never even met Tuxie.
Yeah, so old, but it is a feature that we're interested in. Femtosecond or Riot, yeah. Anyway, thank you for that question. Let's move on to the next one.
Next question is Aart asking, now with access to engine license, is it possible to increase the hammer grid size, brush limit, or does this cause other complications?
Yeah, so really with license, like, yeah, everything's possible, but like there are a lot of complications with that. Like I guess the BSP format would probably have to be changed because it uses a lot of shorts and stuff like that. So
2004 compression. Yeah.
And also all in the engine, there's a ton of shorts being used, so that would all have to be changed. So it'd be quite a significant refactor. And I guess, I mean, there's kind of a reason why no one has done it before. It's probably really hard, but I mean, now we're on 64-bit, so we should be able to, take advantage of the extra memory.
More memory, yeah. Maps might be bigger size and bigger memory because it's every vertex, right? For every brush, every model would be a full float, as opposed to...
And defrag, too. Those are huge maps, right?
Huge maps. But for a game, right? For a game like ours, yeah. And fast-paced modes like AHOP would really take advantage of it. Complications. Absolutely, it's Saurus. We're gonna probably hit archaic, like hack, like we did this because there's demons and there's like some shit. So like, yeah, there's definitely going to be complications. We're going to be exploring it though, because we want to offer that. We want to be backwards compatible, so it will be a new BSP version, only doable by our hammer and tools. But we do want to try to support that. We want to have defrag-sized maps. Because it's possible. It is very possible nowadays. We should not be limited to a short in terms of precision, which is, by the way, plus or minus 32,000 or 16. I forget if they use signed or unsigned. But hopefully it goes well. We are looking to improve the mapping workflow. I think that was meant. I talked about it earlier in the stream. We are absolutely looking to increase the limits and increase the grid size, improve our tooling, and make it easier and more streamlined for mappers to be able to map and make some really cool shit.
Yeah, so JJ asked, well, not asked, but yeah, good to document whatever BSP modifications we've done. So
yeah, to lumps.
I guess it is BSP related, but I did put in the VDC about like the that weird static prop lump thing we were doing. So I don't know if we'll still be able to like update that, because it's gonna be like chaos. Is like if we do go that route, it's gonna be a lot more modifications to the BSP format than just what Alien Swarm did or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And keep in mind, it will mean that a map made for momentum, say in surf or whatever,
Mhm.
that's really big.
Can't
You
be
just
played.
won't be able to pull back. Like there's just no amount of trickery is going to let you fit a map that's twice the size of the standard hammer grid into as much. I don't know. You could. Imbellis did a good job on Aof Coast, but you couldn't do 2 coasts or whatever on one hammer grid.
Yeah, it fills it
It's
up.
amazing you got one coast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just shows how lazy Valve was. No, I'm just kidding. It's with all the NPCs and everything removed, so obviously Valve can do that.
Yeah, and even without refactoring like the BSP format, I think there's also just a lot of limits that are not necessarily needed that could be stripped out, because like a lot of them were set in 2004 and they were scared on having like too many particles and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's other stuff we could look into.
My ATI Radeon 1 couldn't run the map. Yeah, so we don't have that. We have we're still on DX9 and like the standard is DX12 now, so it's like like that's how far behind. But
and I mean, there's I think Gawk answered when I had this question, like, how does defrag have, Quake have such a big grid size, but like Source doesn't? I mean, so I guess the reason would to just make the grid size smaller so you can fit more things in the map, because I mean, defrag maps can be huge, but there's not like a bunch of detail you can really have in like certain areas.
Yeah, so it's a trade-off. I think that's why Quake maps have been really big. But yeah, thank you, Art, for that. We are going to, so absolutely we'll try, and it is possible, but we'll see how hard it's going to be. So possible versus realistic, right? Yeah. All right. Yeah. Our savior SL. Let's do it. All right, next question.
Next question is by Ark, asking, with the work Lumia has been putting into the defrag implementation, has defrag moved up to being a game mode for the 1.0 release? And secondarily, what are the game modes that will be ready for the 1.0 release, or by 1.0?
Yeah, so I think this was talked about like sparingly throughout other questions. Yeah, so the work that Lumia has been putting into defrag is really inspiring. It's the same kind of inspiration, or very inspiring feeling that I got from seeing the jumpers implement the modes as well. So it's awesome to see it. Defrag moved up to being a 1.0 release mode. Depends on Lumia and how defraggers like the implementation that Lumia has done. So it just needs testing, and I mean, it won't have official like implementation until Lumia is happy with the code. So it is up to them. But it can. I mean, jump happens, so it's very realistic that defrag can. So most realistically, yeah, it's most likely going to be a 1.0 mode. And that's not any pressure on Lumia or anything. Hopefully they don't feel pressured. So yeah, I hope it's coming along really well, and the nitty-gritty things from not being on Quake Engine, id Tech stuff gets figured out, and they're happy with the implementation, and then we can take it in and put it in and start to give keys to defraggers to test it out, get some maps in place, maybe some of the smaller defrag maps, Yeah, but I'm super pumped because it can be a 1.0 release mode, and that's the most exciting part. That's why I love that we went open source for the game. Once you go closed source, it's just you and whoever's on your team, right? So, unless you have an open source past version, I guess. And then what are all the modes? I think this has been answered. So surf, bunny hop, defrag, maybe no, surf, bunny hop, rocket jump, sticky jump, conk. A hop. Okay, hold on. Let me restart. Surf, bunny hop, rocket jump, sticky jump, A hop, Half-Life 2 movement. Conk is coming along and basically going to be done by 090. Trikz, which is just needing UI work. We have the system in place and the movement, obviously. And then defrag, maybe? Question mark? Oh, that is Lumia in chat. All right, awesome. Yeah, you can actually test out defrag right now. It's using the public release of 087, so feel free to check it out. But yeah, so maybe defrag, and then post 1.0, if defrag isn't ready, defrag. Otherwise, climb and parkour. So those are like the 1.0 ready are going to, it might be up to 8, if defrag is ready. So exciting stuff. Yeah, climb. But yeah, thank you Aart for asking that. Yeah, we kind of answered it over the other questions, but all right, next question. Speaking of Lumia.
This next question I think I can answer. Lumia is asking, what, if anything, is Momentum Mod's defining art style, and where did it come from? Is it the final art style, or will it be something that gets updated and evolved in the future? At this current point in time, we don't have a defined art style. We are striving for a futuristic theme that supports each of our game modes and facilitates the direction that we want to take with our campaign. But we haven't finalized on a specific style that we want to incorporate into our textures, into our designs, into our assets, into our pretty much our concept process right now. But it has been something we've been developing each and every week. We're working on a variety of different assets like textures, shaders, models, level designs, and I think through all this, we're exploring different approaches to various art styles. So as time goes on, we'll continue to refine our work and probably decide on something that best defines our game mode experience, because we have a few different game modes here.
Yeah, well put.
Some sort of hints of some of the directions we're going in terms of, say, some of our current view models. I think the one that False has been working on, we're really pretty happy with. Or I don't know, I love it. But like developing it into like a full sort of art style that both is a campaign art style and also potentially the way that it plays into general view models and stuff, and like we spoke about before, the player model. That's coming along, but yeah, like I said.
Yeah. I don't have too much input for this because I'm not an artist, but I love the work that's being done by the art department, right? And just we will be, as we approach a story and the campaign, we'll have a centralized theme, but with the customization options, right, we'll allow you to divvy from it. We're not going to force you to use momentum specific stuff. They'll be default, but you don't have to use it. The campaign's going to have its own distinct, art style for all the maps and whatnot. But yeah, so great question. On to the next.
Our next question is by Paddy asking, will map playlists be easily shareable, and will they have leaderboards?
I don't know, because I feel like if you make a playlist and it's supposed to be an all-encompassing one, like an all tier 1 or something, and you add a tier 1 map, you would have to update the playlist, and if it's officially available, then it's hard to know whether or not people are going to be upset at us for not updating it versus the person that's in charge of it. And then is there any way that playlists could be abused? We will have a map playlist a map playlist feature. And for those unfamiliar with kind of like the game mode speedrunning scene right now, it's very it's commonly called the gauntlet, or like a gauntlet of playing all of a certain tier of maps, or going tier to tier up to a specific like threshold. Map playlist is kind of our feature response to that, of like anything on the map selector you can add to a playlist. And the idea is that the playlist is this kind of like layer of UI that exists in like the pause menu that lets you see times that you've gotten on previous maps. And then not only that, when you beat the map, you have the option in the map like map finish panel to go to the next one in the playlist, like automatically. You could have that be a convar or something where it just automatically goes after it submits the run, or something. And that way we can actually have a speedrun mode for multiplayer maps as well. So not only in that, like not just our campaign, but also like custom maps, right? So yeah, like I'm not opposed to having map playlists be easily shareable. I think that there has to be good UX. It just needs UX design, really. Like how do playlists get created and saved and shared? Where's that UI? But after that gets figured out, I think we could. Like I don't see why we couldn't. So I think we could. I'm not opposed to it. It's just we definitely want to implement the feature first. We want to have map playlists, people playing map playlists. And then we'll see how it goes for shareability. But leaderboards, no, the maps themselves are going to have that. The only thing that has an encompassing leaderboard is going to be the campaign speedrun, which there's only going to be like two categories. There's the any percent, which is just beat to the end, and then there's the 100%, which campaign details we'll explain later. But yeah. So like that'll probably be the only one that has an overarching leaderboard of like, oh, you played through multiple maps. And of course, each individual campaign map can have its own leaderboard as well. But yeah, playlists, no. Just because the user creatability side of it, if they were curated, right? If we had the problem is with the playlist that's like a curated one of like, oh, all of the tier 2 maps. If you add a map, then what happens to the leaderboard, right? Because it's now longer by default. You have to beat another map. So if people were okay with it being more of just like not really giving rank XP, but maybe storing the overall time it took to beat a playlist, maybe we could do that. We could have like almost like a temp, or sort of like not really that important other than just seeing how long people took. Because the most important leaderboard for us is going to be the individual level map leaderboards. So yeah, so we'll see. It's kind of just like a giant, like, we'll see how map playlist needs to be implemented. But for now, we need to actually implement it and see how people like it and react to it. Ooh, sorry. Need to eat something, but I'll get around to that. Thank you for that question, Paddy. Hopefully that answers it. We'll move on to the next question here. Or did somebody have anything to say?
No, I was gonna say our next question is Webby asking what's planned after the 2.0 release.
So I'll go first. I'm going to play the shit out of the game. I'm going to kind of step down as developing. I'll fix bugs and stuff, but like I want to play the shit out of the game. I've been making this game for over 7 years now. I want to play it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the campaign, fix bugs. We might do a hard mode DLC. We might add other campaigns. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, because we're not doing every game mode for the campaign, right? We're only doing surf, bunny hop, rocket jump, and sticky jump. But we could do other game modes, or have the community make a custom campaign and then just include it by default, Left 4 Dead 2 style, right? We could do that. But other than that, there's not really any major content planned. It is the last major release for the game. It's going to be maintenance and just kind of playing and watching the community and seeing what the community wants. But other than that, playing the game and, I don't know, eventually moving on. It's so far in the future, right? Like it's, I'm not going to immediately stop everything momentum after 2.0. I'll probably play it for like 2 or 3 years and then like probably move on. But I don't know. it's so far out in the future, it's hard to really know. But
do you think if
about you
new
guys?
developers came on and wanted to work on a new game mode, would that be like within the scope, I guess, adding more stuff past 2.0?
We always could, yeah. I mean, if we design the systems in place to be pretty able to allow it, right? Which we have the ability to, which is nice.
Yeah, we've not spoken about 2.0 and game mode mixing and fun.
Oh yeah, that's right.
By 2.0 and sort of around 2.0, I think the plan is to have the ability to do much more customizable game modes and sort of mix the two of them together. I mean, currently our version of defrag is basically just bunny hop with a rocket launcher.
Yeah,
it's insanely fun. It's really fun.
Yeah.
And like, you know, at the moment we want to be targeting like these really specific game modes and not just like putting random stuff together and seeing what fits. But in the future, like as a sort of 2.0 thing, that I think is like a very strong possibility at the moment, or that's the plan, right? And then after that, I mean, depending on how powerful that is, that hopefully will allow people to really go and, you know, do their own crazy, wacky game modes and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, good question, Webby. Thank you for asking. We don't know for sure, but we'll see. It'll be fun.
I would love to make like, you know, different campaigns and stuff.
Oh
Hop
yeah.
Campaign. Oh my god.
A hop campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
sucks.
really
Play
fun.
Half-Life 2. No. Yeah, it'd be
It's just Half-Life 2.
it's all of the maps. There's no NPCs or anything. You just hop through it all. And then we increment the BSP size and do BSP streaming to have it all stitched together.
Ooh.
That'd be fun. But anyway, yeah. So thank you, Webby, for that question. We'll move on. I believe this is the the last question that we have, unless we added more. Did we add more?
I do have 3. I have I didn't add any to the slides, but
okay.
I have 3 kind of good questions that were asked in the chat. I don't know about Q&A live. I don't think.
There's been a few in Q&A live.
Oh, okay. I don't know if we want.
But we're cutting it off to as you ask them live, they'll be batched for the next one. We want to do more of these, so yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So should I just put these in the Q&A live and say who said it, or do you want to like answer them now, or?
Were they relevant to what we were talking about?
Some of them were relevant. And if the people are still here, it's nice to have your question answered.
Yeah. So I'll just read one. Sakari asks, "Does Momentum/Chaos have a bug bounty program?" And I think Hona answered it in the chat, but I don't know. Like not money, obviously, because you know it's free game.
Yeah.
Now to have like recognition more for finding bugs.
That would actually be really cool.
Yeah, I know, right?
That would like having a little like in menu like leaderboard for like people finding like exploits and stuff. I think that would be really cool to have. Yeah, we can't give you like, I mean, if we do monetary rewards, it'd be like $10. Like we can't, you know, we don't have a budget. We can't really invest in like, oh, like Valve $25,000. Like, oh, good job. But like, yeah, it's not something I'm opposed to. I think it would be really cool to have like some kind of recognition there for people finding exploits in the engine. There's a nice thing too is like things that are found for CSGO we can patch, which if you guys have paid any attention to Source Twitter over the past couple of weeks, Valve's not very good at responding to HackerOne tickets. But we can, if anybody has exploits that would probably, you know, impact us, not really server related, but maybe, you know, if people in the lobby or something could do something, we could fix it. And absolutely, we'd love to have people submit stuff. I don't know what would be a suitable reward. We could figure that out. If you guys want like in-game recognition through a leaderboard or something, we could do something like that on our site. We could do we'll figure it out. But yeah, absolutely, like things unusual. Yeah, cosmetics. Honestly, yeah. If you guys submit like a bug and we fix it and we give you like a really cool like effect,
bug squash.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'll just answer. I kind of got that mixed up. Hona did answer this question in. I'll just read it again in case somebody wants to add to it. Again by Sakari. Are majority of the game's statistics and information going to be accessible for third-party integrations and tools, such as a web API?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is Hona still there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We will have.
All our data will be accessible by the API. Like right now, we don't have any like OAuth set up for like your third-party tools, but it's all going to come.
Yeah.
Where you can pretty easily just fetch all the data. Basically, everything will be public for you to fetch, except for the anti-cheat flags or whatnot. So yeah, but if there are like tools or dashboards that we want to add, they ideally should just go to the website. But if it's something like you want to get statistics for one-time thing, obviously that can be pretty easily scripted.
Yeah. Yep. And then the last question, I guess, is from the Develo. If a map requires CSS/TF2 textures or models, and you don't have them mounted, how will that be handled? So
really good question. Really good question. Yeah, we did talk about it a bit.
Bigger question, but yeah.
So the way that that's going to be handled is our map selector. We're going to update our map selector. When you submit a map, there's a whole system I could talk about called the Momentum Mod Asset Atlas, but I won't go into that right now because it's a big system and it needs to actually be like theory crafted some more. But the idea is that when you submit a BSP for like final review, that map review phase, when it's going through map review, it might be still packed or whatever, but we will effectively strip apart the map. We're going to actually take out assets that are included from the VPKs of the games that you're like relying on. So CSS, TF2, etc. Sorry about my stomach if you can hear it. I'll get some food. Don't worry. I'm not starving myself or anything. It's part of the momentum diet. No. Yeah. Anyways, the map selector will say which games you will need mounted. We will have a Gary's Mod style mounting thing that lets you know what games you have mounted. We will also have a tool that takes the VPKs of interest and the things that we need from the game's VPKs and automatically pack it into a smaller, ideally smaller, right? Nicer VPK to deal with. That way you can actually just run the game, install the game, like actually have the game. We're not gonna, illegally support, but like we would take the VPKs from your official Steam install and then repack it into maybe like a VPK that you could put into the Momentum Mod one, and then you can uninstall the games that you mount.
Uninstall TF2.
Yeah, ideally, right? So because obviously, like you don't need man versus machine content if you're not going to be playing TF2. So stuff like that, but you still require downloading and playing, getting the assets from TF2 to mount it. And then, yeah, so maps that do use that, again, we're going to try to have an asset atlas that lets you use custom textures that we either have the rights or, use already in maps. The ones that are in these games VPKs will not be included in the pool of textures to use. So mappers will actually have a tool called the Asset Atlas that will let them use reusable assets from, and then artists can upload models and textures to the Asset Atlas, and then from there, you can make your map using assets that already exist in the platform, and people don't have to download a giant model if they already have it or something. It could be an improvement there to map sizes, and then map just mapping quality of life. Like if there's really quality textures that a map uses, it could be permissive to other mappers to use it, stuff like that. Obviously some maps are going to have specific textures like cube maps and stuff, right? It doesn't, you want those to be shared, but stuff like general wood, like a tree or something, like wood textures with a tree or something that an artist created, they can upload it to the Asset Atlas, and Hammer can integrate with the Asset Atlas, so we can have a Unity asset style panel, and you could drag in stuff from the Asset Atlas and it'll download it and store it in the BSP. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that we're really looking forward to improving and implementing. But yeah, really great question, because it is right now kind of impossible to know if the map you're going into requires any game. But we will absolutely let it be known that, hey, this map, like it could automatically filter on melt, or if you turn that off and then you join the map. Like, we could also like maybe gauge how much of the assets from the game that you used. We could also have, we're actually planning on having some better error textures and better like error model stuff, to where it's the core game models, like things that are like used for like structure and like blocking routes and stuff, will obviously be required. But like things like, skyboxes or whatever could be replaced with maybe a lookalike in our asset atlas. Or we could have like a technique used to take maybe like the reflectivity value of a surface, and then when you render the map, it just uses that reflectivity value as opposed to the texture, and then that way you just bypass even needing a texture download at all. You just play a map, and it looks, it'll look weird because it's not fully textured to the way, but it'll be playable and not purple and black eye vomit, right? Source error, right? Which is very visible and made to be visible, because when you're making a map, you want to make sure everything is being like packed and properly referenced, right? So we still have that error texture. We have a new error texture that makes it more bearable on the eyes. I think there's a command that we have a documentation for. And then there's going to be that as well. That'll be like, okay, so don't use an error material at all. Just like use reflectivity value colors, right? So there will be different ways that you can still enjoy these maps, and hopefully, still compete, even though you might not have CSS. It is unfortunate that there is a ton of content made using CSS assets, because that is a really old game that still costs money, but we got to deal with what we're given, and so you gotta pay up, get CSS, and
plus
we'll have tools.
With two ones in the naming, and I could just
thank you, Valve.
Definitely like getting to the state where it is possible to play, say, surf and b-hop maps that currently use a bunch of CSS textures. Getting to that point where it's possible to play those maps without owning the game, but it just won't look good. Would be great. And I'm not sure if it's a definite goal for 1.0, but yeah, it would be great. And then doing just more and more to make it a better and better experience if you don't have that, because loads of people don't own CSS. False doesn't own CSS, apparently. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and
what the hell?
It was touched we will be looking at your maps like more in depth. So it wasn't talked about in kind of the map submission portion of what we were talking about, but definitely not going to be adding maps with like profanity in the name. So no N-words in your trigger entity names, please.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, for retroactively adding some kind of poorly named jump or b-hop maps or something like that, we can change the name of them, change the entities, so it's not like gore, porn, stuff like that.
Yeah. Ideally, right, like we won't have an official rating for the game, but we are looking to at least have like a E to T rating, right? Like we'll have guns, so maybe that might bump us to T. But like we don't want, like, surf maps don't need porn in them. Go watch porn if you want porn. Don't go play surf _. Yeah, let me open up Momentum mod and get my penguin dick wet. No. So there's there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff like that we're going to be just filtering and renaming. Like surf porn might be renamed to surf pork, and we could like replace the textures of porn with like pork or something. Like we could have some fun with it. Like it'll be relevant. Like if you miss it, we'll add it, but then just retexture it or something.
Maybe jump prostate probably gonna have to be changed a little bit.
That's a medical term. To be honest, it is not. Anyway,
well, I mean, there's like floating dicks, and it's like,
oh, okay,
it's a little crazy.
Online content not rated by the ESRB. Anyway, no. But yeah, good question. Great questions there. Yeah.
And that's the end of the question. So this is the last one.
Yeah. Last one by Hex here.
I don't know if we have Oh, here we go. You want to ask it?
Yeah, a very important question is when will the return of the fabled Goknek streams be?
Soon. Does this count? Does this count as one? I'm in a stream. It is. I am streaming from my computer. So yeah, the main thing is I can't do development, and then I do want to take a break. So now that we have the new engine out and we're like moving forward with development on the new engine, I can start to kind of calm down a bit, because that was the main thing. Is I was trying to promise a build at the end of the year, and that wasn't happening. But like at the same time, I just wanted to get the game stable and on the new engine cleaned up. So now that that's happened, I can start to relax a little bit. I do have a bunch of like puzzle games and stuff that I want to play and just kind of take, when I'm not coding, I'm playing puzzle games. But no more dev streams. So if that's what the original question was, sorry. I'd have to work on like botneck, which I already vomited a little bit saying that. Or I'd have to work on something else. Or I would have to be a Marbles on streamer and then just only show the game capture when I'm coding. Anyway, we'll see what I end up doing. But I do have games that I want to play. There's a ton.
One shot.
Yeah. So,
Please
so there's,
play Conk.
yeah, I'll play Conk on stream. Go Conk will be my new name. Anyway, yeah, so they will return. If these aren't enough of my beautiful face, I guess. Gognak hot tub stream, that's coming when I get back up to 100 subs. I gotta sell out for that one. Next dev Q&A stream will be in a hot tub. We'll get a team-wide hot tub. We'll all get individual hot tubs with our donation money and be in hot tubs. And then we will, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I should stop doing that. People might take that seriously. I think that's it. That's it. We did it. Yeah. So, wow, 3 hours and 50 minutes. Almost 4 hours. So
Sub 4, new record.
Sub 4. I think for the next one, we might cut it off at around 3 hours. It might also just be less questions. This was our first one. So, if you have any questions, if anything that we talked about in the VOD, if you're watching the VOD or live, please join the Discord, which is linked in our description, as well as probably in the chat in a couple of seconds. Please join our Discord, ask in Q&A live. We will gladly answer for the next one. And then in terms of the future of these streams, right, if we aren't getting as many questions or enough questions, we could turn these into either just hangout streams, playing Momentum Mod, with people in chat, hanging out, kind of showing off what we're working on in the game. So, just gameplay. We can do that. So it's not just talking for however long. So yeah, we'll see what these can evolve into. But for now, we will we'll kind of end it here. Does anybody have any last words or final closing statements?
Just give us feedback, I guess, for the next ones. Since this is our first one, we'd appreciate any feedback.
And yeah, if anyone's missed stuff, the VOD will of course be on YouTube. And we'll
timestamps,
with chapters, whatever. So it will be nice to.
If anyone has any tips on how to better capture a Discord group call and not have to chroma key,
I mean, it's perfect. Like, it gets my hair just right.
It turns people into ghosts if they're too
I have to chroma key it, otherwise you just see Discord's background, and like I don't know. I could leave the Discord background in if we don't really care, but yeah.
And I think it goes without saying, we all appreciate those who have stuck around to witness this stream in its entirety. We did a little bit of a rehearsal to try to make this go a little bit smoother, but obviously we can't perfect everything. But like others have mentioned, if you guys have any feedback on anything for improvements, definitely share them with us. We want to make this as tolerable for you as possible while appealing to everyone's questions and interests. So we're trying to, I guess you could say, optimize. We're not trying to keep these streams going on too long. We don't want to lose everyone's interest or attention. So yeah, if anyone has any suggestions, any kind of feedback, definitely let us know. We're looking for positive or constructive criticism.
Yeah. Yep. Well put.
Mm-hmm.
Make Keezy Pogger. It's coming. It's coming. But yeah. All right. I think that'll be it. We'll go ahead and end stream now. Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. We had somebody in chat say they were here from the start. Thank you so much for watching, for asking questions, for being hype about the game, supporting us financially if you do. We appreciate each and every one of you. You guys are important to this game's future, and we want to include you in our development. So hopefully you guys enjoy these streams and asking us stuff like this, because that is the best way, I guess, to kind of get stuff in front of us and ask us stuff. So should we raid anybody? Is somebody streaming Momentum Mod currently, or should we just end?
Who's live?
But yeah, we'll either raid somebody or just maybe end if there's nobody online, because it's like 5 a.m. now. No, I'm just kidding.
Right now, you get a 60 viewer raid.
Yeah, you get a fatty raid. Momentum Mod. Let's raid that Momentum Mod guy. Playing Momentum right now. Let me snatch that host.
Fortress TV.
Hell yeah. Oh, you're kidding? Damn. Well, all right.
There's one person playing TF2 Jump. If you want to raid them, I think that's the closest we're gonna get.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, we'll raid Trip then. He has a key. Maybe this might promote him to go play it. Please play Momentum. No, but anyways.
I sent it in his chat. Please play Conk.
Oh boy. Anyway, yeah, we'll call that we'll call that the end. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care and enjoy Trip's jumping. But yeah, thank you so much. Catch you guys in the next one.
Yep.